I've proved my point kind of off, if you will, camera, microphone, but it took me a second to explain earlier. Oh fuck, sorry. Yeah. So obviously, I don't think it's the woman's fault. It's not. It's not her. That's obviously should be. Everyone shouldn't be like, oh, she asked for it, whatever. Because I was saying this example earlier to Hardin. I said, so if a big woman, not fat, I mean just whatever he likes, I guess. If a big old woman, bigger than you, that could basically woman handle you, came up to you, you're not feeling sexually aroused or anything. She came up, she forced herself upon you. You like what you were you asking for it? If you were wearing
that would be interesting. That would be interesting to have someone like Ronda Rousey push herself on me. That would be an interesting experience.
But if you didn't want it, why wouldn't you? It's basically abuse. I mean, how do you feel about abuse?
Well, hey, a female MMA athlete. Shoot, who knows if the bitch got pregnant, my child might grow up to be extremely athletic.
Okay, so you would like if yeah. Oh man, I'm sorry. You'd like if she would do that because she's athletic. But I mean, even if you didn't like it at the time of her forcing herself upon you, you would accept it and you wouldn't go to the authorities if you didn't like it at the time. If you didn't ask her to do it, if you didn't ask her to
I would not go to the law for that. No.
Not even if you suffered bad. So what I'm getting is you're saying that if the result of the rape is, I don't know, pleasant, let's say, like you have a child that ends up some sort of an Ubermensch, Aryan, super soldier, like Ronda Rousey, and you, who I guess you're a superhuman too, just like her, and your baby just ends up being super duper strong. The rape baby. So you're saying that it's okay for you to get raped if that happens?
Hey, that would be a child I would be proud of.
So what if she was, say, 500 pounds and obese instead?
I would just chalk it up to a life experience. Oh well, that's life.
Being raped. But would you really though? Because would you really think about that way about anything else? That's like if your house burnt down, would you think, well, that's a life experience, I just lost everything?
Well, here's how I look at life as a vegan activist. Whatever whatever harsh experience any human might experience, I can assure you, does not compare to what a female cow experiences. Having her child abducted from her and killed and being forced to pump out milk to be sold to humans. So when you look at things from that sort of perspective, in the grand scale of the universe, there's worse things happening than anything that happens to that could possibly happen to any human. And see, that humans have, and this is what we need to be addressing, what the human community globally needs to be addressing. The problem that we have really is a problem that we're bringing on ourselves with our dysfunctional social systems.
But I think you could again take that just further and apply the same logic to the female cow, then okay, yeah, sure, most human women, they don't have the same problems as, say, I don't know, a cow that's being tortured on some
Um, um,
farm.
um,
We
um,
all know that
it,
they live
um,
on
it,
some
it,
terrible conditions, but you could say the same thing about, I don't know, we don't know if there's some alien species where the females are maybe enslaved. So maybe the cow has a pretty good life compared to those Martian women, right? So why care about the cows?
well, hey, you know what? If the day that female humans start being subjected to what female cows are being subjected to, then I will start hearing feminists out.
Hmm. So, okay, so basically what you're saying is that human women, it's a weird qualifier to be arguing about human women, because that doesn't usually come up. Nobody really brings up animal women, I guess, usually in the debates about feminism versus anything else. But so you're saying the human women aren't really suffering as much as they make it themselves out to be
No,
suffering.
female humans have never been oppressed. If
Never.
female humans have ever been a victim of anything, it's their own biology.
Still,
Because
do you think even in some of the Middle Eastern cultures, which I have an experience with in the Middle East, where I grew up, I grew up in the most quote secular country, which is Turkey, which it's only secular on paper, but I would imagine growing up as a woman in Saudi Arabia would be horrible, not necessarily because it's their fault.
not as bad as what non-human creatures go through, but that aside, when it comes to Islamic theocracies, places like Saudi Arabia and Somalia and other places, I don't agree with the strict dress codes that they have for women in those countries. However, I understand why they have that. I do understand why they have that. The reason why they have that in Islamic countries is primarily to keep the conflict between the genders down to a minimal, because see, one thing I give Islamic countries credit for, um, um, and I do not want Islamic culture, by the way, taking over the West. In fact, that's
Mm-hmm.
uh, 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 I. I have a serious problem with how SJWs and feminists are aligning themselves with Islam. I have a serious problem with that, because as a vegan activist, the thought of Islam taking over the West is a fucking nightmare, because in our activism community we have enough of a challenge as it is. Islam would make it probably 25 times worse of a challenge, because as someone who comes from an Islamic country, I'm sure those cultures don't give a flying fuck about animals. But but
That's
pardon my
true, but they also don't give a fuck
but
about
part
the women, though. The thing about the dress code, though, is it's not really the dress code that's the worst part about their oppression. I mean, I would think that the women would be very happy if the dress code was all to it, but the worst part is that if they violate the dress code or any of the other codes, is the punishment. If you show your ankles, if you show your eyes or your hair, then you get stoned to death. Rape is legal. If you get raped, you will have to have 4 male witnesses to be deemed innocent, and even then you can still be killed because you're not a virgin anymore. I would think that all of those things would constitute enough evidence to, fairly call it oppression of the women, of the human women. And I know, knowing full well that, yeah, that, in the Middle East they treat animals like shit too, as they do in a lot of Asia, but still doesn't make their treatment of women any better either.
I have a quick question. Is it the woman's fault for dressing provocatively, or is it her biology? Because you said it was both.
That's a good question, and that's definitely one worth addressing, because that's a question that has a multiple layered answer to it. So what I was originally referring to, but it does pertain to your question. But what I was originally referring to when I said when I made that statement was, for example, when women complain about lack of female representation in certain traditional male professions, um, um, that is due to female biology. That is not due to systemic discrimination, which is something that actually would be in place if I was running this world. If I was running this world, women would not be allowed in the fucking workforce at all. but that's another topic. But women have.
Wouldn't that, to just interject there, wouldn't that really slash our workforce in half? Because we have done these experiments before. I mean, women, for example, a couple of years back, I've heard this story about a village in Africa where a neighboring village was outdone by that village because they allowed women to work. And because they allowed women to work, their output immediately doubled. You know, it turns out that if you criminalize, or rather not allow half of your village to work, you're losing out on a lot of a workforce. The same was true for slavery, right? Abolishing slavery was one of the best things economically that.
Using chattel slavery, and I'm assuming you mean chattel slavery, because economic slavery is still very rampant, including in the West.
Either,
but
I'm talking very generally about any class of people who are not allowed to work. What you're really doing is, if it's whether it's 10% of your population or 50%, what you're doing is you're cutting that 10% or 50% of people out of the economy.
Yeah,
less work.
So the problem I have with chattel slavery being used as an example is because that is something that affected black people of both genders, and that is something that really was morally reprehensible. That's entirely different from saying, well, the STEM professions are 98% male, so that's oppression of women. Give me a fucking break.
Well, I agree that
Give me a fucking break.
Yeah, of course they don't suffer to the same degree as, say, slaves in the old days or women in the Middle East. Yeah, with that I agree with you. It's not the same thing to say, you know, hey, there's a guy on the bus manspreading versus a woman in the Middle East who just got stoned because she drove without a chaperone, right? But in terms of slavery, I mean, there were some parallels, at least in some parts of the world, where slaves didn't really have human rights. Women don't really have human rights. Their lives don't matter. They're practically worthless. They're subhuman. So I would think that comparison does exist in some places, but sure, maybe not in the West right now. So can you tell me about what you would do if you were the ruling person, let's say, with women? I mean, what do you think would economically drive more prosperity to a nation?
I disagree with, and I've heard that argument before. You're certainly not the first one who's made that argument. I disagree with those who argue that having women in the workforce increases prosperity for all, and the reason I disagree with that is because when you look at the kinds of jobs that are let me clarify. I'm not going as far as to say that all of the female dominated occupations are fucking useless occupations. Of course, that's not the
Mhm.
case. Like nursing, for example, that's a female dominated occupation. That is a very useful profession to civilization. Social services, uh, um, 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 cosmetology, massage therapy, things like that. Yeah, those are useful professions. Those are professions that do serve a functional purpose to civilization. However, when you look at certain industries, though, industries that really should not exist, like the banks, for example, banks, credit unions, insurance companies, things like that. The vast majority of of the support jobs and the management jobs and stuff like that in those industries, in the banks and in the insurance companies, are done by women. Are done by women. The vast majority of those office jobs are done by women, and
Reading jobs, I mean,
those.
90% something of CEOs are men. I mean, the people you might talk about the people working in the cubicles, the lower level grunts doing the shitty work,
Yeah,
clerks,
and
but
and and
higher up, the
and
people who are actually running the businesses and the banks, they're all men.
and like I said, banks should not even exist. But that would take us into another discussion topic, a discussion about different economic systems. But the reason, so I mean, when I say women are victims of their own biology, more so than anything else, because female biology has its strengths and its weaknesses, just as male biology has its strengths and its weaknesses. So the reason you see very few female CEOs is because the average woman is simply not cut out for that kind of job. That is an
Okay, but
extremely high pressure, high stress job. If you look at professional chess, for example, now the people are shocked when I tell them that there actually is such a thing as a professional chess league. Yes, there is. There is a global professional chess league, and the professional chess league has hardly any women in it. Very few women in it, and here's why that is. Here's why that is. Why that is. So chess is different from like basketball or football or any of those sorts of things. That's a game that does not involve any physical exertion. It involves extreme mental exertion, extreme mental exertion. There's a famous saying in chess that a good player knows how to think 5 moves ahead. So stop and think about
okay,
that.
but even I agree. I've
You
heard that point before that even because the point usually is made is that men, of course, are biologically speaking physically superior, but that women are lagging
not
behind even in some certain
not not
sports, say where physics doesn't. Sorry, physical
not
strength doesn't play a role, like chess. I agree,
basically
and I agree
not
that CEOs they are under great stress too, but even if we accept that as true, and I grant you the point just for the sake of the argument, wouldn't women still have a place in the workforce? Even if you give them a menial
abs-
job, like let's say something like cleaning toilets or cleaning the streets, isn't it still better that if you said half the population has to do these menial jobs now rather than saying half the population has to sit at home on their couch and waiting for their husband to come home? Wouldn't
well
that be a better use for them?
Oh man, now you're trying to drag this into a conversation about different economic systems, which I don't really want to go there,
No,
but I can see,
no, not
but
at
but
all.
but I,
It's not
I
about the
but
economic
but
system.
I
You're
I can
saying that
see we're going.
half the human population should just sit on their hands. That is just bad no matter what economic system you use, regardless of it entirely.
Okay, let me make this point first because I see we are going to have to tie in economic systems because of the nature of the question you're asking. But let me make this point first. The reason I bring up chess as an example is because that is an example of how men are not only physically superior to women in terms of muscular strength and bone density, but we are also intellectually superior to women. And here's why I say this. Here's why I say this. Intellectual activities. Believe it or not, there's actually more to that than just IQ. Okay, so if you look at IQ statistics, what the data on that shows is that there is actually a narrower difference in a narrower difference between the genders in IQ than there is between the races. Okay, so if you look at IQ statistics, what you will find is that the difference in IQ by race differs to a shocking extent, an absolutely shocking extent, because what you find is that the highest average IQs, not and of course there's going to be variance in every race, but the highest IQ on average is found in Israel and in Asians, Japanese, Chinese, Taiwan, Korea, Singapore, those countries. So
And the Jewish. Mm.
Asians and Jewish, particularly Israel, those are where you find the highest average IQ. And those populations average 105 on the IQ scale, and then Jewish and Asians are followed by white people who have an average IQ of 100, and then everybody else, Latino people, black people, are below white people. And you've got some populations, like it's one of those places in Africa. It's either Madagascar or Equatorial Guinea, I forget which, that has an average IQ of 60. And scary to think about a whole population of people where the average IQ is that low. I mean, I wonder how those folks are able to maintain any kind of functional society at all. That's kind of scary, because when you talk about an IQ of 60, that's in the mentally retarded range. That is considered mentally retarded by first world standards. But anyway.
Yeah, but see, these statistics are from the book The Bell Curve by Charles Murray, which he himself said that this isn't due to race, but more due to the resources those people have. I mean, if you're in some sub-Saharan Africa, you're not going to have access to schools, to good nutrition, which all play a good role, as opposed to if you're living in the USA, where all of that is plentiful, and you have Asian parents who culturally value high grades more, and they put more pressure on you to do well in school. There's going to be a discrepancy of a lot of points.
I get that, but that's a whole separate discussion topic there. Now, if you look at the difference in IQ by gender, it's actually much more narrow than it is by race. The difference in IQ by gender averages about 10 points. Okay, so if you take the average IQ for white people, for example, if the average white male has an IQ of 100, then you can expect the average white female to have an IQ of about 90. Okay, so the IQ differences by gender are definitely there, but not as much so as they are by race. They're actually much more narrow by gender. However,
They are more narrow, but women are on average actually have a higher IQ. Are you talking about the fringes?
true.
Because men
Not true. Not true.
men have
No.
on the but you can Google this right now, which I just did. You can Google gender IQ graph. And women on average have a higher IQ in the middle, which is, the average population, but men have more idiots and more geniuses than women. But on average, women have a higher IQ. You don't have to take my word for this. Please, use a search engine and look
Sounds
up the
pretty
graph real
impossible to
quick,
me.
Oh,
well, you're a flat earther.
Are you serious?
well.
I'll bring this up
Okay.
right now.
Okay. Where was I going with this? Oh,
Can I
When I'm
ask you a
try-
question that the chat wants to know very badly? They want to know what is it?
No, go ahead.
They want to
I'm
know
not
your.
paying attention to the chat.
Oh, okay. They want to know your opinion on gay rape,
Who's mine or Mr. Harden's?
Mr. Hardinch's.
Is this back about is rape or good or bad?
talking about.
Yeah.
Are you talking about male on male?
Yes, that's what gay means.
Well, I definitely have sympathy for anyone, male or female, who is subjected to forced anal penetration. That is something that should not be tolerated. In fact, I don't even like the fact that anal penetration is going on voluntarily, and which is why I personally would like to see gay men segregated from the rest of civilization. Let them have their own separate communities that's apart from mainstream civilization, because there's public health issues that occur with that kind of physical activity. However, having said that, when it comes to forced anal penetration, that is entirely different from vaginal penetration, because a vagina is made for that, and I've always found it quite interesting that feminists, along with their mangina allies, will gripe all day long about rape of women, which actually doesn't cause women any physical harm unless it's forced anal penetration. I'm against that regardless of who that's being done to.
Cause them harm. That's how they tell rape from consensual sex. That's why they tell women to immediately seek a doctor or the police if they were raped, because they can actually tell, looking by the trauma happening in their genital region, whether the woman was raped or not.
Do you think a vagina is
the
invincible?
emotional trauma, but I mean, why are gays specifically worse in your opinion? Why like, I mean, if I'm getting you right here, you're saying that gay people aren't really
well, when it comes to forced anal penetration, I see a serious double standard there on the societal scale, because forced anal penetration is not something that anybody, male or female, has to worry about who's living out in civilization, statistically speaking, because the cases of forced anal penetration that occur in civilization are so minimal that they don't even equate to a single statistical data point. However, what I do find interesting, though, is in a society that constantly preaches the message, "Oh, rape is wrong," but yet the forced anal penetration that happens at an epidemic rate in male prisons, they fucking laugh and joke about that.
That's true, but that's mostly because, if you're in prison, people kind of assume that you deserve it. A woman who's, I don't know, she was shopping and somebody decided to cut off her way and then raped her, people assume that she was kind of innocent as opposed to some child rapist in prison who got raped, But are you saying that vaginal rape is not as bad as anal rape because the vagina was made to take cock, basically? But
Yeah,
then
yeah.
For example, your mouth was made to eat food, right? But if I would tied you down to a chair and forced food down your throat, you'd still be angry at me. I mean, your throat was made to eat food and swallow food, but if I just, choked you with food, you'd be pretty angry.
I said that same thing earlier, actually,
Yes,
and it's not. Sorry, I just want to put that in this. But like, you're forcing someone else to do it. Like, you don't fucking want that. What if you're full? You don't want to eat more, but they keep fucking forcing you to do it.
Yeah, the example applies to everything. Your car is made to drive, but you would be pissed if somebody stole your car and drove. He's still driving it, he's still using it for its intended purpose, but he's not the person you chose to drive your car, just as a rapist is not the person a woman chose to use her vagina. It's the consent thing that gets to people, It's not about, hey, does this hurt as much, or is this the right way to use the thing? It's about whether or not the person wants their thing to be used that way.
Let me get back on track because now we're veering off into a different point because I want to make my point before I forget and before we get too far gone. So going back to the IQ issue.
Do you want to answer the question first?
Which one?
The Kaya asked you which.
My position on that is very clear. Women should take responsibility for their own lives. That's it. Just like men have always been expected to take responsibility for our own lives. If you're a guy and if you're a guy and you go into a damn gay bar, a gay nightclub, dressed in tight spandex apparel, and you get hit on by every guy in that gay bar, and you go and complain to your bros about it, nobody's going to have sympathy for you because they're going to tell you, well, you brought that on yourself by, first of all, going in that kind of establishment, secondly, going in there dressed in tight spandex attire.
Well, say they're wearing the ugliest thing imaginable and they get raped, is it still their fault?
Why that would happen?
Well, it happens all the time. Women get raped not just because they're pretty.
Because a woman who is dressed in the type of attire that the women dressed in the type of attire that women from Islamic countries where they don't get any attention from men at all, because there's nothing eye-catching about them. There's nothing eye-catching about them.
Do you think an Islamist has to be wearing something provocative in order to be raped?
That kind of attire, that kind of dress code, it's nothing that would cause a man to go into any kind of state of sexual arousal. There's nothing eye-catching about that.
Yeah, but they still get raped.
What's specifically about gay people? Is there an underlying point? I mean, it can't be just about the rape, right? I get the feeling you have something against gays in general.
I don't have I'm a big believer in freedom of association. So if two men want to live together and be romantically involved, that's their business. I don't care. The only thing I take issue with is their physical activity, because the rectum is the body's septic system. It is not a sexual organ. It is not made for that sort of purpose, and it should never be used that way.
Well, neither
Now,
is the mouth. I
well,
mean, if you're just talking about what is reproductive, then it's just a vagina. I mean, your mouth is made to reproduce, but people love sucking dick and having their dick sucked. Just like people love fucking asses and having their asses fucked.
oh well, it's not just about reproduction. A vagina is made for one purpose, and a rectum is made, evolutionarily speaking, for a completely different purpose. And when you have kind of activity going on a mass scale, in fact, John Lordson, actually, who, by the way, is a gay man. He actually wrote an interesting book about that. He wrote about the AIDS epidemic and how that began, and how it plagued the gay community back in the 1970s and whatnot. And he attributes that plague within the gay community more to the reckless and abusive lifestyle that they were subjecting their bodies to, than to any kind of pathogen.
That's not wrong. Look, I know AIDS statistics. Gay, especially gay Hispanic and black men, are the only group of people today whose rate of AIDS and HIV infections is still rising.
It's
right?
high, I
As
know.
opposed to,
I know.
it's not just high, but the bigger point is that it's still rising, as opposed to every other group of people, like homosexual white men and heterosexual couples. For them, the rate is slowing down. But again, you could bring this back to, were they educated correctly? How's the culture around them? Are they just
Sure.
ignorant about this? Is it something you could just teach them at the end of the day? Are we just not good enough at teaching people that, hey, listen, here's this virus, this fucked up thing that can really destroy your life. Stop doing this. So maybe it's more up to us. But
yeah, but
your original point of it still seems to go back to asses aren't made to be fucked, which is true, but neither are hands or mouths. But we still do it.
well, but let me get back to my point. So if you look at the IQ difference by gender, it's actually quite minimal. It's a difference on average of about 10 points. However, when it comes to activities that are brain intensive, that really require a lot of brain work, there's more to those activities than just IQ. And this is an example of what I mean when I say that women are a victim of their biological limitations. They're not really a victim of society. Do you know who Neil deGrasse Tyson is?
Oh yeah, I quite know him well. Yes.
Now, I don't know what his IQ is, but just for the sake of argument, just to throw a number out there, let's just say his IQ is about 120. Which I'm guessing his IQ is at least that, because you do need a certain IQ level to be an astrophysicist, because that's something that requires a high degree of intellect capability. So let's just to throw a number out there. Let's say his IQ is about 120. I can assure you, if you put Neil deGrasse Tyson up against, say, an Asian woman with an IQ of 160, that's a huge difference. That's a difference of 40 IQ points. Neil deGrasse Tyson will do better at his profession than an Asian woman with an IQ of 160.
Well, yeah, if she's not in the profession, if she hasn't been to school in astrophysics.
Regardless, it doesn't make a difference because astrophysics.
Are you telling me you're comparing a guy who's a specialist in his field to just some random woman you pulled aside on the street?
Oh, no,
I
I'm
know
talking
more about programming than a newborn. Even if the newborn might one day grow up to be smarter than me.
That's beside the point. That's beside the point. Women, regardless of their IQ, they still have a white matter brain. They still have estrogen. They do not have the same degree of stress tolerance as a man. And when you're talking about a profession like astrophysics, that is a profession where you are working under pressure. You're dealing with tons and tons of data.
What kind of pressure is there when you're an astrophysicist? These planets aren't running anywhere. They're not hurling towards you. They're just kind of hovering in space, being all boring like.
No, you're...
It's not exactly diffusing a bomb. I mean, you're just kind of sitting in front of a telescope and, I don't know, writing snarky shit on Twitter.
No, you're missing my point. Do you think an astrophysicist spends all day doing the fun stuff? Looking at the pretty.
I think he's doing the boring stuff. I think a woman who has like 5 children has a much more stressful day than Neil deGrasse Tyson, who's a millionaire, and every once in a while tweets out a wild science fact or a space fact. Yeah, I genuinely don't see how he could conceivably have a high-stress job. It's tedious, if that's the word you're looking for, but it's definitely not stressful.
The point I'm making is it's a job that involves constantly examining piles and piles and piles of data. And there's deadlines to that job, especially if you're trying to get a project done within a certain time frame to advance a scientific agenda. So it is a high pressure job. The point I'm making is, women, regardless of IQ, do not hold up to pressure as well as the average men. And this takes us back to the chess example. The reason why there's hardly any professional female chess players, it's not because there aren't women with the IQ to handle playing professional chess. There are. Nobody's denying that. There are women with IQs of 120, 130, 140, 150, and so on. So yes, there are women that would certainly be suited to playing professional chess. But the reason why women are such a minimal presence in the professional chess league is because women cannot hold up to the pressure as well as men can. They've actually scientifically studied professional chess players, and what they have found, and this is really interesting, guys who are professional chess players are actually under as much physiological stress as an NFL player, a football game. How in the world is that? Because we're talking about a game that does not involve any physical exertion, but because of the intense mental exertion involved in the game of chess. All of those stress hormones that the brain emits, like say during an NFL game or an NBA game, are also being emitted during a professional chess game because of the extreme mental exertion. Do you know how much of the body's resources the brain takes? It takes an insane amount of resources.
That may well be true. Do you play chess?
Maybe 3 or 4 times in my life.
Okay.
Wow.
But I mean, the thing just is that, according to everything I've heard, even though you don't play chess, you're saying that you could win against a specialist Asian with a 160 IQ woman who's the chess master in China, because you're just, you can handle stress better than she can.
No, that's not what I'm claiming at all. What I'm saying is if you take a man and a woman who are skilled chess players, to the point of being at the professional level, the guy is going to hold up under the stress of that game better than the woman will.
Mm-hmm. I don't know, man. I feel like it can be divided by whatever industry you're in. There's some just things women are better at, and there's some things men are better at. But I wouldn't say it's just a
nurturing
stress thing. Have you ever been around kids? They're insufferable. I can't stand being around my 4-year-old nephew. I want to strangle him and flee the country. But my sister doesn't even notice us crying. Yeah, and at that point, I feel like I'm the one who can't handle stress. It's those different things.
Well, yeah. Women are naturally better at nurturing than men are. However, when it comes to raising children, the reason why a K-type system is demonstrably superior to an R-type system is because when you hear the term nuclear family being used, is K-type. That's a K-type system. Is because
what is the K-type? What does K-type mean?
Oh, you're not familiar with R-type versus K-type in family in societal structure?
No, I mean I know what the nuclear family is, but that's as far as it goes.
Family is a K-type model. So in sexuality, in every animal species throughout the animal kingdom, you've got what's known in science as R versus K selection, R versus K type sexual selection system.
Mm-hmm.
Within the human population, no society has ever been 100% K or 100% R. But however, you've got some human populations that lean more K. There?
Yeah, I
What did
guess
you-
he stepped away for a second.
Yeah, he had to pee real quick.
Are you holding up?
Oh yeah.
Dr. Love going too hard on you? Yeah. No.
No.
Okay. Just making sure.
Never
Did you
really-
see? Oh, what?
Go ahead, Mariah. You haven't talked
No, I
much.
was just going to ask him if he saw the YouTube video I sent him.
Oh, the one where you're the one where you're showing off your legs.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That one.
yeah. You're putting some patches on your legs, and it looks
Yeah.
like they're hair removal patches or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can watch it after. It's okay. But just wondering if you got it. I'll send it to you again later.
Did you enjoy it?
I don't
To
think
it.
he's watched it.
I did. Yeah. There's not much to it. You're just showing your legs.
No, you said you wanted to see the videos of me revealing my body, so that was me waxing my legs that I sent to you.
But you're not really showing your body. You're just showing your legs.
Oh, so you
No.
want a different video revealing more?
Yeah.
I'm not gonna send you anything else. It's okay.
Yeah.
What do you want her to show?
Yeah, I thought you were, when you said you were sending a sexy video, I thought it was
I
gonna
never
be.
said sexy video. I said a video revealing myself because you did want to see that video, didn't you? You wanted to see. I said, oh yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was gonna be a video of you in a bikini or something.
Oh
Is that what you
my
want?
gosh. So you want a video of me in a bikini? Too bad. That's not gonna happen.
Do you know she's 15?
Nah, I told him my real age. How would I have been engaged at 15, Brady?
I was trying to see if he would
Hello?
Okay.
be
Yeah, you're
Yes.
back.
interested in that point.
Hey, yes, sorry. I was just, I don't know, disconnected for some reason. But listen, I'm gonna grab a drink real quick so you guys talk and then you can cue me in.
Okay.
You're
Okay.
not gonna get inebriated, are you?
I have been for the past 2 hours. I'll be right back.
Oh, really? Damn.
Oh, that's a good laugh. You have a very nice laugh.
I have some questions for you, hard inches.
Oh my god. Just ask him.
Oh, are you ready?
Don't ask
Hardy.
him if he's ready. Just
9
ask
inches
him the
hard. Are
question.
you ready? All right, I'm assuming you're ready. All right. Well, the chat basically wants to know more about you. How old you are, where you're from.
Yeah, because they've gotten all this information and no context behind who
Yeah.
you actually are. So.
How long you've been in the community of incel,
Mhm.
and
I'm
Go
not
ahead.
part of that community. But
the
I'm
IF. Okay, never mind. Sorry. Just continue.
44.
Been making
Alright.
YouTube videos for.
From America. I live in the Midwest. Well, what got me interested in this particular subject matter is part of it. So part of it has to do with economics and how public resources are used, because there are certain things in society that resources are being wasted on, such as police, courts, and prisons. And
we want to know about you.
Well, he was telling us about his YouTube, but oh shit, what is this?
Not really.
Okay, so you're not considered an incel. You're telling us about your YouTube channel, and
Do you have a
Why'd
job?
oh my god.
That's been a question that's asked frequently. Do you have a job? Do you work?
yes, professional sniper.
I thought. Never mind.
Okay.
What's
I
your
don't know.
serious
I
job?
guess that's not real. Oh, welcome back,
What's the topic?
Dr.
Hello.
Love.
We're asking him questions about himself. Right now, the question is, where does he work? What does he do?
Okay. Well, fair enough. I mean, we haven't really heard much from you, Harden. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself? I imagine you value your privacy and anonymity, but anything you can give away and tell us?
I do photography, and when I'm not doing a professional shoot, then I spend a lot of time researching and blogging and debating.
Who do you usually debate?
Debate. It depends. It depends on the subject matter because I debate a pretty wide variety of people. A
Who is it usually? I mean, most of the time. Is it incels? Is it feminists? Who is it?
Oh, the feminists, man, I could rip them to shreds. Shit. Yeah, when it comes to
Who can't?
when it comes to debating, the people I find to be the lowest of low-hanging fruit. I'm talking about fruit that you don't even have to reach up to the fucking tree to grab. Are first and foremost non-vegans because I have absolutely never heard an argument from a non-vegan that justifies their position at all. There is just nothing that justifies violence against sentient creatures. Especially the
I'll
large.
tell you, I'm not too happy. I'm not too happy about it either. It's certainly a thing I have my personal
Yeah,
and struggles with myself.
And when I'm in a debate on animal rights, I mean, yeah, I easily crush crush those people because they're always severely lacking in logical consistency. And then after them would be feminists and SJWs.
Well, I wouldn't really count that group. I mean, anybody can. It's not exactly a high bar, but I just wanna. I think people want to get to know you a little more because you can ask us, of course, back. I don't know if you and lady, what was your name again?
Oh, Mariah.
Mariah. Okay, I assume you two have gotten to know each other a little bit, but like, so you're in photography. How old are you right now? Is that okay to share?
44.
Okay. You're a photographer. So you're not an incel. Are you married? Are you in a relationship?
I've been married, no.
And married?
Have you been fucked?
I've had women. I don't currently have a girl in my life, but I've had women in my life.
Are you a virgin?
Whoa, wait, you have a girl in your life right now, and you wanted to see a video of me in a bikini?
No, not currently, but...
Oh, okay, never mind. No, nothing, okay, never mind.
In a bikini?
Yeah, that's what he was expecting when I said I had revealing videos of myself. I said me showing off my body, but that doesn't always
How old are you?
necessarily mean... I'm 19.
Okay, that's... Well... the rule is half your age plus 7, so that would be 22, 29. So she's quite a bit younger than what's socially acceptable for you, Harden.
That's in...
The unwritten rule, I'm sure you know the unwritten rule of it's okay to hit on women who are at most half your age plus 7. So I'm 26, it would be okay for me to hit on women who are 20, which... Still too young for me. I'd go with, 22, 23. Lowest to me personally, but yeah.
Well,
are you voluntarily not with a woman right now, or is it a dry spell?
No, I don't have a woman in my life currently. It's not something I am prioritizing at this particular moment in time.
But do you think you could get a woman if you tried?
But is it the question then comes in, is it worth the effort?
Yeah, well,
Because I've got
look, that's
things that
fair
I
enough. Yes, sure. Sometimes you don't want to deal with a partner. That's true for both women and men. You know, sometimes
I've
I don't
got
want to. I don't
I've
want a girlfriend. Sometimes women don't want a boyfriend. Sure, but if you, my question is, if you wanted to find a girlfriend currently, would you be able to? Or do you think you would have a very difficult time?
You said you looked good. You said you looked better than me. You said, "Oh, I probably look better than you," and I'm 44. So I mean, I don't know. Your answer should be yes, in
I
my
was
opinion, by the way you've portrayed yourself.
I was referring to health. Yeah, I said I'm probably in better
Okay,
health than you because
because you're
it,
vegan.
yeah, as far as now as far as my looks, I wouldn't refer to myself as a Chad. No, I think I'm reasonably good looking.
Are you a virgin?
No,
No. Do you want
no.
to talk about your
No, you
sexual
said that, but
experiences?
currently, so you are saying it would be difficult to find a girlfriend currently, or to get laid if you wanted to, if you cut to the chase. Brass tacks here.
Well, see, I have standards. I have standards. I am not willing to settle for an ugly bitch. So, there has to be some sexual attraction, and if that is lacking, then then there's there's nothing that could motivate me to want to be bothered with a woman.
Okay, but
Um,
sexual attraction is mostly physical and optical, so, I mean, are your standards that high that too many women aren't attractive enough for you, to your standards? Because, I mean, sure, I have my own standards, but, I find women to be lovely. Many of them.
well, so you see a lot of guys with ugly bitches because they're settling for what they can get at that particular period in time just to have female companionship in their life. I don't give a fuck about that.
So, would you
It's
describe
it
yourself
is
more
it
of
is
a MGTOW, a man going his own way?
It's an interesting question. I can definitely relate to MGTOW. Yes.
Okay. Well, I mean, it's just the way I see it is, MGTOW usually, if you look at their forums on, I don't know, be it on Reddit or any other website, is they sound more like incels in denial, or TFL, people in denial, the true forced lonely
You're not the
people.
first one.
For those who don't know the,
You're not the only
yeah,
one who says that. Yeah, there's Steve Hoka, Kicks Passion, Bill Greathouse, as well as Face and LMS. Well, Face and LMS. I don't know if if he considers himself part of the TFL community or not. But yeah, there are a lot of guys in the TFL community who say just what you're saying, that most MGTOW are TFL in disguise.
in denial, yeah, basically. I mean, you have to admit, I'm I'm not a great fan of Steve Hoka. Frankly, he's kind of boring. I mean, you have this, I don't fucking know, 50-year-old guy who looks like some sort of a guy who's playing a cowboy on Halloween, and he seems to have these weird political aspirations that he's not quite reaching, and these weird, I don't know, he was trying to run a marathon, I don't even know anymore, but you know, I like Kick's passion, I like his work, and in his videos he makes good points. You know, none of these MGTOW guys, they ever look good, none of them. You don't ever see a male supermodel man going his own way. For some reason, it's always the ugly Quasimodo, hunchback, ugly Phantom of the Opera motherfuckers who claim that they don't want to have anything to do with
Okay,
women.
it depends.
I wonder why.
It depends on. Fuck is this in the comment section? I'm looking at some of these comments in the comment section, and one person is saying, I rape rats." Wow.
Oh, that's her name.
Huh? That's a screen name, you mean?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know. Oh, I thought that was a comment. Oh, wow.
No, that's his name. I don't know why he would choose that username.
It's a weird fucking username. Wow.
It truly is. I don't know what the... But let's not get sidetracked. I don't know about those weird people.
I do understand your point. I would counter your argument with this, though. I have known a lot of Chads and Tyrones throughout my life who I think could easily fit the MGTOW profile, although they're not part of the MGTOW community. Yeah, you're not going to hear them on YouTube, you know, doing MGTOW oriented lectures, but they do fit the definition of the term MGTOW, and what I mean by that is guys who refuse to get married. You know, they'll have short-term flings with the most attractive woman that they're able to get at any given.
Not the MGTOW. Did they upgrade the definition? I refusing to getting married. That is not the MGTOW. I mean, yeah, you're just talking about the regular Chad, male, handsome guy, just fucks a bunch of women but doesn't settle down with any of them. I know those guys too.
No.
MGTOW, from what I have ever seen on the internet, means just a guy who doesn't even want to be with any woman because they have this "you can't fire me, I quit" mentality with women. You know, it's this, "oh, you don't want to date me? Whatever, I didn't want to date women anyway" kind of thing. So not wanting to settle down isn't MGTOW. That just.
But what I'm saying is, I have known extremely handsome guys who do have that attitude toward women. They don't want anything to do with women outside of fucking them, and that's it. Because here's
that describes like 90% of men, but I always thought that MGTOW was men who they don't want to have anything to. They don't even want the sex part, is what I'm saying. You know, they don't even.
No, that's not true. That's not true. Not the basic level MGTOW. There are different levels of MGTOW. Yeah, so there are some guys who refer to themselves as MGTOW monk. So if a guy refers to himself as MGTOW monk, that means he is intentionally living living a celibate lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
But regular MGTOW, no, that's not a life of celibacy. It's not a life of celibacy. No, it's generally speaking. It's generally speaking guys who just choose to have as little as possible to do with women, and withdraw from society because they know they're being marginalized as men. You know, so they'll work the minimal that they need to maintain a basic apartment and their video gaming lifestyle, and that's it.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know about MGTOW monks. I did not know that. I always thought it was one and the same thing with the MGTOW, and they're just men not being able to get laid.
That's not all
Incels.
MGTOW. No, in fact, MGTOW monk is that's a minimal percentage of the MGTOW community. That's a real small percentage. But the thing is, if you stop and think about it, if you stop and think about it, the if you think about the personality type of the average woman, right, which is due to her biology. It's due to her high levels of estrogen and her white matter structured brain. Whereas men have high testosterone and our brains are comprised of gray matter. If you think of the personality type of the average woman, you know, and I'm talking about the average because of course there's statistical outliers, but like I always say, exceptions to a rule do not negate the rule.
No exceptions prove the rule. True, of course.
But
Go ahead.
if your bros, if any of your bros in your social circles started exhibiting those same personality traits that the average woman has, would you tolerate that from him?
I mean, depends. What do you think is average female behavior?
Being prissy, being easily triggered, you know, you're constantly having to walk on pins and needles around them because they're so easily fucking triggered over the smallest of things. You know,
Yeah,
it's
I mean, look, I do find myself walking on eggshells around women, but that's because I find myself walking on eggshells around people in general, men included. My best friends, sometimes I have to hold back things, and
really
I'm
why.
sure the same thing is because that's just how humans are, man. I'm sure they have to walk around certain things when it comes to me. It comes down to some people are touchy about some things. I like to think that I'm not so touchy about some things. You know, there's certain things that will trigger me into rage, like, you know, being Middle Eastern, I'm very touchy about freedom. I hate it when anybody talks about, you know, wanting to take somebody else's freedoms away or censoring them. That triggers the shit out of me, you know. But I am used to usually talking, you know, just using euphemisms and being nicer than I feel like I should have to be even around men. I don't feel like it's a male-female issue. You know, for everything that I've ever held back on with my female friends, I'm sure I could mention you just the same one thing that I've had to hold back on with my male friends.
Well, no.
Who gets triggered when I mention baldness, for example? He gets super upset when I mention baldness.
Oh, does he have alopecia?
I don't know what that is, but he is balding.
It's the scientific term for male pattern baldness, alopecia. Yeah.
Then yeah, he's tried everything. He's tried all sorts of snake oil bullshit. He tried stopping jerking off. It just, you know, it makes him sad. So I try not to bring that sort of stuff up. But that's just how everybody is. People get pissed off.
I
you know?
Point though, but when you look at the differences between the genders, though, you know, we're absolutely foolish if we deny that. I'll give you one example. So I have a YMCA membership, and the YMCA branch that's close to where I live. They made some changes to that particular branch recently, and one of the changes that they made is, so they used to have a steam room and a sauna that were gender segregated. So the steam room and the sauna were in each locker room. They were in each locker room, so they were gender segregated. One of the changes that they made is they no longer have a well, they no longer have a steam room at all. they now have one sauna in the swimming pool area. So the sauna is co-ed because it's only one. They only have one, and it's in the swimming pool, and it's in the swimming pool area. And when they made that change, a lot of the male members of the YMCA got fucking outraged over that. And the reason it pissed a lot of male members, YMCA members, off is because when you have something like a sauna that's co-ed, okay, and you're a guy, and let's let's say let's say you want to go into the sauna with one or two of your bros and just hang out and do what bros do, talk guy talk. When that equation changes and you have a sauna that's co-ed, and you are being forced to share that space with women. Mm-hmm. If you're in that space with one of your bros, now you have to watch what you say because now you have to walk on pins and needles because you have to be careful not to offend the women in the sauna because they could get triggered and go complain to management, and these men in the sauna were saying some awful things, and they hurt my fragile widow feelings.
Look, I get what you're saying, and I think there's been an issue of people, women in the past. I don't want to use the word infiltrating, but entering, let's say, hobbies and fields and works that men have traditionally done, and then, complaining about the work environments, the way men talk and just behave and just the brotherly gag. But I'm telling you right now, the same thing is true for women. If a guy is hanging around with 3 women, believe me, they're holding back around you. They can't be entirely free about the types of things they're discussing either,
Are you fucking kidding? That's when.
No, I'm serious. That's when. I mean, a woman, if you hang around with, say, I don't know, a girl and her best friends, they're not gonna talk about, I don't know, the best way to handle their menstruation, or the best way of epilation to handle their leg hair. That's not gonna come up. It's just there's certain things that the genders just don't want the other gender to hear because it's just uncouth. I don't want my, if I'm with my male friends, I don't want some girl to overhear how I'm a pervert who wants, I don't want anything more than Ariana Grande to sit on my face, right? But I don't want her to hear that. And similarly, she probably doesn't want, me to hear that she wants, I don't know, who's the guy that plays Aquaman? Should I forget? Jason Momoa. She probably doesn't want me to hear that she just wants to be held down by Jason Momoa, It just, certain things that both genders will keep from one another. That's not necessarily because they're getting triggered. And, women might get triggered. Look, the word trigger is very vague, but, she might get upset at something that the guys say, so the guys might hold back. But you and I, we might get triggered, quotes, by something that the women say. Like, if the women talk about, like, men's heights, and let's say you're 5'4", that wouldn't upset you? You wouldn't rather that they hold back and shut up about that conversation while you're around?
About stuff like that, that's small stuff there. What I'm talking about is so for example, when I'm participating in vegan activism events in real life, locally where I live. Now, vegan activism, unfortunately has been subverted by feminists and SJWs. So our activism movement has become a fucking feminist and SJW cesspool, and it pisses me off because I value the cause. So I don't like our cause being associated with these fucking whack jobs. But anyway, but when I'm at local vegan activism events, and these functions tend to be about 90% women. You think these bitches are holding back? No, man, no. They can be in the presence of a man, and they will still express their contempt for men. I hear it all the time.
Well, sure, they express their contempt for men, but I know just as many men who
In front of a man
for women, and I have friends who do the same thing in front of women. Just women, they're so shallow and slutty, and yada yada yada. They do that sort of thing. But don't you really see why a gender would hold back in front of another gender, or one group of people would hold back in front of another group of people, and they would be upset if you don't hold back? Like, if I don't know, it's just I know that the certain exaggerations exist. Of course there's these terrible social justice people who just get offended by anything, but sometimes there's men too who get offended by just the small things. I could very well imagine my best friend going, if we were sitting at a cafe with a woman, for example, maybe she brought up how she likes men with a full head of hair. Afterwards, he might pull me aside and say, can you believe her? How can she bring that up when she can clearly see that I'm balding?
Yeah, I get your point there, but do you really think that's the same sort of thing, though, as 2 or 3 women talking among each other, but with a guy in the same room, and spewing their vitriol against men, and griping about the mythical pay gap, which has been debunked 1,000 times, and talking about men have been systematically oppressing women for centuries. I hate men, and I'm telling you, these bitches say those things in front of guys all the time in the activism circles I'm in. They don't hold back. They don't self-censor.
Look, I get your point, but I feel like you're mixing a lot of decent points with points that don't really mesh with the decent points, which is, yeah, I agree. There's a lot of people, especially the social justice kind, who get offended by innocuous things, by minor slights like manspreading, or how dare this guy say this word or that word. But on the other hand, they're not 100% wrong when they say that women have been oppressed for centuries. It's not wrong. Women didn't even have the right to vote, this or that. And like we talked about a couple hours ago, they still are oppressed in the Middle East. They still are basically chattel in the Middle East. I would be pissed off too, about that sort of a thing. But to take that and then extrapolate that onto, well, why are they so angry today? They are free in the West. Why are they crying today? Rape shouldn't be a crime. It doesn't really follow to me personally, the logic.
So you're talking about women in centuries past not having the right to vote. That's true.
Yeah. Look, yeah, of course, I'm talking about
why should they?
Times, because because they're, I mean, as much as you could disagree with them about their values, and even if you take the 10 IQ difference thing, which as far as I can Google and as far as I can Bing and as far as I can DuckDuckGo, every single graph I've looked up that doesn't corroborate that. Even then, you still have to. Why should they not be able to vote? That just simply doesn't make sense. That sort of stuff. I mean, no matter what you say, women should not be stoned, right? They shouldn't be stoned because they show their hairs, right? We both of us agree with that, right?
Yeah. Of course. Yeah.
Okay, so when we take that, then what exactly do you mean when you say why should they not be oppressed, or why should they not have been deprived of their rights?
When I say why should they have voting rights, it's not because of the minimal IQ difference between the genders. That's not the reason, because like I explained before, there's more to intellectual capability than just IQ. I mean, yeah, IQ plays a role. That would be absolutely foolish to deny that.
I'm not about the IQ, man. I don't care if women have a higher IQ or a lower IQ. I don't care. Autistic people have a lower IQ. I still think of them as humans. I think that
of course,
I'm not just should still be able to vote.
I'm not.
Yes,
I'm
go
not.
ahead.
I'm not disputing that. Yeah. However, IQ definitely plays a role. We would be foolish to deny that. I mean, there's no way someone from Madagascar with an IQ of 60 could ever hope to be an astrophysicist. That's delusional. But no, the reason I say why should women have the right to vote, it's not because of the IQ difference. Because like I explained before, there's more to intellectual ability than IQ alone. It has to do with male biology versus female biology. On emotion, men act on logic and data. Those differences in how the two genders are wired.
Yeah,
So
anybody could say that about anything, I don't know. White supremacists could say that about black people. You could just say, hey, blacks are wired differently. Why should they vote? You could say the same thing about women in the way that, yeah, maybe they do think more emotionally. Maybe they do think more in a nurturing, I don't know, compassionate way, especially about children, let's say, right? To me personally, that doesn't make their votes any less valuable, because they still have to live in the same society as we do. To me, anybody who has to actually live in the society that has to be voted on should get a vote. I'm not even against, I don't know, prisoners getting a vote, right? I mean, you would think I'd be against it because they're they're felons. It's like criminals, it's serial killers, it's rapists, it's scum of the earth. But at the end of the day, they still live in the society that we're voting on. So I feel like they should get a say in it. Same thing for women, same thing for anybody who might not be thinking logically and data driven as men, even if men were, necessarily data and logic driven, which I don't 100% agree on. I think men are, I don't think we're that infallible. I think we think with our dicks and hearts plenty.
Nobody is infallible, but here's the thing though. You have to ask yourself, because there certainly have been plenty of matriarchy societies throughout human history, and matriarchy societies tend to be R-type societies. On that R-type scale, they tend to be more on the R end of that scale. Whereas
R and K is when I disconnected. So unfortunately, nothing against you. I never heard the points you made about the society. That's when I lost the connection. Yeah.
R-type is where you have a population that focuses on having large numbers of children and invests minimally in those offspring. K-type is where the society has minimal numbers of offspring and invests heavily in. And when I say invest, I don't mean necessarily in terms of money. I mean in
Invest in
terms
what?
of
You cut out for a little. Invest in what?
invest in their offspring.
Okay.
Yeah, and when I say invest, I don't mean necessarily in terms of money. I mean in terms of time, energy. Devoting a lot of time to a child to make sure that child grows up well, has a good quality upbringing, and there's way more to that than just money. A married couple who is poor can give a child a good quality upbringing if they invest adequate time in that child.
Well, yeah, I agree. I don't think only, I don't know, wealthy and, upper class people can give their children a worthwhile life. I agree.
Yeah. So those are the differences between an R type society and a K type society. And
just real quick, Kaya, do you need a break?
I could take a piss.
All right,
Why?
go ahead.
You need me gone?
Yeah, I have some
That was
questions.
suspicious, but okay, I'll be right back.
All right. So this girl, Mr. Hardinge9, this girl just DM'd me, and she had a very interesting question for you. She explains that she's very naturally ugly. She has very small tits, and she wants to know if she was wearing like very modest clothing, very conservative clothing, and she gets raped. Is it her fault? She's ugly. She's wearing shitty clothing. She's not hot. No man is being attracted to her or distracted.
I'm not sure what you mean by ugly because
He's talking about me.
No, he likes you.
having small tits does not make a girl ugly. What makes a girl ugly is
Okay, thanks.
All right, just ignore that part and say
no.
she's ugly.
What makes a bitch ugly is if she looks like Roseanne Barr.
All right, say Roseanne Barr got raped. Is it her fault?
She would have to worry about.
But she's raped. She got raped. Is it her fault?
I don't see that happening.
It happens.
No.
Okay, well, she
It
has
happens.
money. What if someone wanted to rape her for the, because she has money?
Because I've spent a lot of time studying this issue, and one of the reasons why I laugh at these feminists who say rape is not about sexual attraction, it's about power. And the stupid meme that's been going around on social media for years now, with the little pie chart, graph saying who's responsible for rape? Men, 100%. People who make that argument that rape is about power. That is such a delusional argument. It's sickening, because if you look at the statistics on that,
It seems like you're kind of avoiding the question here. Now you say Roseanne Barr is the ugliest woman in the world. Say she got raped. Is it her fault?
wouldn't happen.
But it's happening. This is a scenario. It happens. This does happen every day. You don't have to be hot to be raped.
If that were to happen, the first question that would arise for me is, what the fuck is wrong with that guy?
But is it her fault?
Well, but
What's wrong with that
all of
guy?
our questions when I mean, that's all of our question when somebody rapes somebody else is, what the fuck is wrong with that guy? Why is he raping people? It's not just when the woman is ugly.
No,
Everybody goes, she was pretty, I understand. We still go, what the fuck?
No, if a guy dragged Roseanne Barr into a stairwell and ripped her fucking clothes off and fucked her, I would say, what the fuck is wrong with him?
But that doesn't answer the question. Is it her fault? Is it her fault?
If she's complaining about getting unwanted attention or unwanted physical advancements from men, I believe in logical consistency.
No, she's not complaining. She's just walking down the street, being ugly. She gets raped. Is it her fault?
I would tell her, look, dumb bitch, stop dressing slutty.
All right, let's turn this into a yes or no question. Aaron, answer.
Have you seen Roseanne Barr? She dresses like a couch. She doesn't exactly dress slutty.
I know she doesn't.
But she's not just slutty. The scenario is she's dressed really ugly. She is ugly. Is it her fault? Yes or no?
I would have to wonder.
Just answer yes or no.
Is it okay? Let me ask you: is it the man's fault at any level? Because no, Mike, I ask this because your entire point has been that men are better. Oh Jesus, what did I do? Okay. I thought I muted myself. Sorry. Well, no, your entire point has been, men are better at handling stress. Men are more intelligent. So if that's true, then shouldn't men be also the ones to handle responsibility a whole lot better? So if a man does something wrong, shouldn't he be, of all people, of all genders, be the one to say, oh, that's something I did wrong. I shouldn't have raped this person?
So,
as opposed to leaning back and saying, "Hey, it wasn't my fault. She was dressed like a whore."
So if that were to happen to someone like Roseanne Barr, no, I would not be inclined to say to her, well, your fault. So I wouldn't apply fault to her necessarily. But I again go back to my point though. What the fuck is wrong with a guy?
All right. Someone asked if there's a nun, the most conservative person in the world, gets raped, is it the nun's fault? Give him time.
I would question why a guy would go into a nun.
But that doesn't answer the question of, is it her fault?
I would find that strange. I would find it very strange
It's strange, but is it her fault?
Oh. The reason I say no is because that would be strange. I would find that very strange for a guy to be that turned on by a nun.
Someone else asked, what if it was a kid, like a little girl that's also ugly? Is it the girl's fault? Like say an ugly 6-year-old that's poor, like homeless, she gets raped. Is it her fault?
I do not condone pedophilia.
But is it her fault?
No.
Okay, thank you.
So let me interject it. But even if it's a very Harden, who do you personally think, just as an example, who do you personally think is the most attractive woman on Earth right now?
Most attractive on Earth? Wow, that's I don't know if I can give you an answer there. That's wow. There's a lot of women that could fit that category.
Yeah, well, okay. Just give me one pick out of the top 10. It doesn't matter that much. Somebody you think is objectively an attractive lady.
Let's see.
Come on, you must have somebody. Come on.
Washington. What's that actress's name? Her I know her last name is Chastain. She played Molly Bloom in that movie Molly's Game, which
Jessica Chastain.
Yeah, that bitch is sexy.
Jessica Chastain. Is she not the lady that? Yeah, she's in Interstellar and stuff. Okay, so let's say she's going through a dark alley and somebody rapes her. Is it her fault? But would you really not say that if men are truly smarter than women, if men are better under stress than women, is it not the man's fault for raping her? Because, okay, so you're under a lot of stress. You're evolutionarily driven to find women attractive, to desire sex with them. That's a lot of stress, right? You see a hot woman and you want to have sex with her. That's stressful, right? To deny yourself that act, even though you could easily physically overpower this woman, to say no. That's stressful, right? That takes a lot of emotional and physical strength to say, no, I'm not going to rape this woman. Isn't the responsibility on the guy?
I have to say no to that, and here's why. Because let me give you one example. So you know about the annual SlutWalk events that occur every year in many major cities around the world?
Yeah.
How the SlutWalk began, it actually began in Canada. Canada was the first city. Toronto was the first city where there ever was a SlutWalk event, and that happened in Toronto as a result of so there was a young highly attractive girl who was out clubbing. She went out clubbing, and she went out dressed real slutty, very sexually provocative. And after she got done with her night of clubbing, she walked through the hood at, I don't know, I think it was midnight, maybe 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. or something like that. And and there was a group of thugs that were standing and hanging out, where she was walking by, and these guys got sexually aroused by her, and they dragged her behind an alley, and each took turns fucking her. You think I have any sympathy for a dumb bitch like that? Fuck no, I don't. And
just the thing though is, yeah, I get aroused by that too. I think Jessica Chastain is a very attractive lady. We all have the urge to, we want to mate with her. I want to see Jessica Chastain naked, of course. But don't you think if I'm that much smarter than a woman, I should also have the necessary intelligence to say, hey, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to violate her consent. Isn't that the thing we always give Muslims shit about? If that's what we're going to go back to for a moment, is the Middle Eastern cultures is, because that's the excuse they always use, right? The refugee Muslim rapist, rapefugee in Europe, oh, that woman was dressed like a whore. How can you expect me not to rape her? I mean, you're arguing just like one of those guys now.
Yeah,
How could we not rape her? She was too hot for her own sake. And the responsibility is on you. Even if she's too hot, you're still supposed to know better.
To address your point. So with that dumb bitch in Toronto, for example. Now, here's the thing. She was out dressed sexually provocative and walking through a neighborhood where you have a lot of guys who have been sexually deprived for years, possibly even decades, and contrary to popular belief, because there's this myth that's been going around for years that men in the hood get laid all the time. No, that's a crock of shit, because I've lived in the hood, so I know what the reality it really is in black neighborhoods, and due to the fact that it is very much an R-type environment, it is a matriarchy environment. All of the vagina access goes to the top 20% of males. The top 20% of males, 80% of
I understand that, but don't you think that if you said we are the smarter gender, right? If that's true, doesn't come responsibility with intelligence? Isn't it up to us to say no? It's just like, say, obesity, right? I have the means to eat 50 cakes if I wanted to, right? I have to be smart enough to say no. I don't want to do that.
Well,
Same thing with women, right? I'm strong enough to rape women. Sure, I'm physically strong enough, but shouldn't my intelligence as a man be enough to say no, I should not do that? That is evil.
Well, I would say if you're going to eat 50 cakes, at least let it be 50 vegan cakes. But that aside, what any man who has been years or decades without getting pussy is easily capable of snapping upon being sexually triggered. And that's what the hood is full of. The hood is full of men like that, men who have not been laid. In many cases,
sexually triggered. So a state of, some calling that they cannot resist.
Especially when his eyes are being faced with an attractive female who is dressed in a manner designed to trigger men into a hyperbolic state of sexual arousal.
Yeah, but that's my point. Shouldn't you be above that? If you're truly not an animal, if you're as a man, if you're better than an animal, if you're better than women, if you're this higher being, a logical man who acts only on facts and data and logic, shouldn't you be able to say, no, this is my animal nature, urging me to rape this woman, urging me to do these heinous acts, and I should say no to them? Shouldn't you be able to do those? I mean, being triggered, isn't that the whole thing that we make fun of feminists for and the social justice people for, that they get this urge to react to something that is simply out of their control? Like they see a word and they get triggered by it, quotes, triggered. Aren't you doing just the same thing if you see a woman scantily clad and you get triggered by it and you have the urge to, rape her?
Again, it goes back to the point I was trying to make earlier, because if you examine the statistical data on what we call rape, what the and there are scientists who have pointed this out, by the way. It's just unfortunate that those scientists have been censored. They've been censored due to the fact that universities are heavily influenced by feminists and SJWs. But what the science shows is that I know it's not 100%. You know, yeah, you're gonna find some outliers. Yeah. Colin Flaherty has done stories on has done stories on young black thugs who have raped elderly women, and what the fuck is up with that is beyond me. Wow. Yeah.
No, I get that,
I
but your whole point is that even if they're young black thugs, they're still men. They're still, no matter what, they're still gonna be smarter and more logical in handling any type of events than, say, a Asian lady with 160 IQ, right? So why can those young black thugs not simply step back and say, hey, I shouldn't do this. I shouldn't be triggered by her scantily clad gym sock filled with vomit looking tits on this 16-year-old woman. Why am I triggered by this woman's body that looks like molten ice cream? You know, isn't that
precisely
then? If we're
that's
truly going to go with the theory that men are that much better, I mean, with, you know, you're basically saying that we have great power, which is, yeah, true, but with great power comes great responsibility, right? So
oh
why
yeah
is it,
yeah
why is the
yeah.
response? You want to have your kid? It just sounds to me. I'm sorry, but it sounds to me like you want to have your cake and eat it too. So we have great
As
power,
long
but
as
at the
it's
same
vegan
time
cake.
we don't have the responsibility. How does that work?
Well, first of all, a guy who would be sexually attracted to an elderly woman is just fucking bizarre. But those are anomalies. And exceptions to the exceptions to any rule do not negate the rule. So if we look at what the rule is, regarding what governments call rape, and that rule being what the majority of the reported cases consist of, what the vast majority of the reported cases consist of is women complaining about rape, who are within a certain age range, who are within the age range of 15 to give or take about 36. And so what does that tell us right there? So women in that age range, 15 to 36, that's the age range of which a woman is in her reproductive prime, when she's in her sexual prime, and the years when she's the most sexually attractive. Um, so if we look at the age range, if we look at the body type that of women that again are the ones most commonly complaining about getting raped, they are women that men universally find sexually appealing. These are not women. These are not women who look like Roseanne Barr. So they're women. So they're young women. So they're young women. 15. That's 2 years past the age of puberty. So that's within that range of sexual attraction, 15 to 36. They're women. They're women with good genetics. With good genetics, they're women. They're women who are nice and fit, nice flat abs, shiny hair, the whole works. All those kinds of features that universally attract men. That's the women. That's the women who are filing the most police reports complain, "Oh, I've been raped."
That would make sense that they would get raped more, but you're saying that ugly women do not get raped. That's simply not true.
Minimal. It's extremely
It doesn't
minimal.
matter
Those
how
are
small the number is, it's still a number.
liars. That's why
It's
I
not
don't
minimal. Excuse
focus
me.
on I don't focus on outliers. That because an exception to a rule does not negate the rule.
Look, I get that all, but I don't feel like you still have addressed my point, which is, if all of that's true, and I grant you your point that women are simply intellectually inferior to men as they are physically inferior to men, you can't ascribe to people who are inferior responsibility, right? Like you can't go to an autistic person, say somebody who's mentally handicapped, and say this person is responsible for every action he does. Just like you don't go to your pet and do that, right? If your cat breaks a vase in your house, or your TV and like your pet throws over the TV, your $2,000 LCD screen OLED TV from Samsung you just bought last week, you can't really be that mad at the animal, right? It didn't know any better. It wasn't intentional. And if we go on from your starting point, which is that women are inferior to men, how can they be responsible for anything that they do rather than the men, us, who are supposed to be smarter? How is it not my responsibility if I'm the one actually making conscious choices? If a woman is basically just a slave to her basic biological urges, and I'm the logical, fact-driven, genius, higher intellectual chess-playing mastermind, how is it not my fault if I do something evil or something bad? And if I harm somebody, how is it the victim's fault rather than mine? I just can't. If you could explain that, I'd be happy. I'm finding it difficult for me to follow along with the logic that I'm supposed to be the smarter guy, but at the same time, I'm not responsible for anything I seem to be doing.
Oh, going back to that dumb bitch in Toronto.
Who?
Yeah. The one that led to the SlutWalk event. Yeah. Reasons why I found that case so outrageous, just particularly outrageous, is so how that led to the annual SlutWalk events was when she called for the police, to complain about a group of thugs in the hood taking turns fucking her in an alley. The cop that responded to her call gave her some professional advice. He told her, look, if you don't want to encounter this kind of experience again, then it would be in your best interest to not go out clubbing dressed slutty like you are now. I don't think he used that term. I'm sure he was more professional, but you get the point. And then walk through a neighborhood like this, dressed sexually provocative.
I get the whole. I understand the whole. She was asking for it line of thoughts, but
let me finish. Yes. Because what happened after that is that bitch got so outraged over this cop simply giving her professional advice that she went to Toronto police headquarters and complained about him, and then she went to CBC, and CBC ran with her story, and that cop got put on a 3-month suspension without pay.
Yeah, but the cop basically told her that she was a victim of a crime and to suck it up. I mean, don't you see how that cop should have acted better in that situation? Okay, so the
I don't.
whole she was asking for it thing, right? That's the basic argument. Is,
I,
hey,
I
you
don't.
dressed like a whore, you were kind of asking for it, right? But that could apply to everything. Like when men are, say, discriminated against for being men, right? Couldn't you say then, well, the man was asking for it by just being smarter than a woman? Because, you know, the same logic could be used against you. Let's say tomorrow morning they pass some sort of a law that says man can't play chess anymore. And you go, what the fuck? Why? Why can't I play chess anymore? And some woman walks up to you and says, well, you should just have not been playing chess that well. You were too good at it. You were asking for it. Isn't that the same thing as telling a woman that she was just too hot, so she got raped? You were too hot, you got raped. You were too smart, you're banned from chess. I mean, blaming people for something that happens to them, to a certain degree, that makes sense. Of course, like, you know, if you leave your house unlocked in a bad neighborhood, sure. But it still doesn't make it 100% your fault. I still think that the person who commits the crime takes responsibility as well.
Yeah, but it goes back to what I was saying before, though. No amount of political correctness, no of laws that governments enact, no amount of shaming men is going to have any effect on evolution. Because it all comes down to evolution. Men are biologically programmed, sexually aroused by a genetically fit woman.
Yeah, but in the same
You know,
way,
that's
your
that.
point, then men are genetically pre-programmed to be smarter than women, right? So if we're better than women at chess, then by that same logic, it's not really anybody's fault if we're better than them at chess league. So why not ban us?
That's a whole. Comes to something like professional chess, that has to do with merit. Who meets the merit standards to be in this professional chess league? That's all that is relevant.
Kai, it's been around 30 minutes. Do you need another break?
Maybe. Are you counting my drinks?
Yes. I hear
What
you
happened to
slipping.
Mariah? Is she even still alive?
She said she had to go to bed.
Oh.
Alright, well. How nice of her to let us know.
Yeah, she kind of just left without asking.
We'll tell you what, I'll be right back then, but you keep me up to date,
Okay.
lady.
Okay. Hardinge, I have some good questions here from the lovely people in the chat. The first one is, what if a woman raped a man?
I wouldn't care.
What? You wouldn't care if a woman raped a man? Is it the woman's fault or the man's fault?
I wouldn't care.
Is it the woman's fault or the man's fault?
To answer that question, because I simply wouldn't care.
Yeah, but how much you care isn't the question. I need to know how much.
For the same reason, I don't care the other way around. I wouldn't care. It's
No, the other way around, you say it's the woman's fault, but if it's vice versa, is it the man's fault that he got raped?
I would say yes if he's being flirtatious, if he's dressed very masculine, very sexy, and
All right, so just yes.
and he's around a woman who hasn't had her vagina penetrated in years, and if she's that.
Well,
And
at
if
least you're not
she,
sexist, huh?
logical consistency.
All right, another question. Would you rape?
Anybody is capable of doing that.
What, you're not capable of doing that?
Anybody is capable of
But
doing
would
that.
you?
It all comes down to evolution.
Would you rape? Yes or no, please. Say there's a woman. Oh, what's that girl's name? Chastity. She's walking down the street, very provocative clothing. Would you rape her? No one's around. No one's gonna catch you. You don't get arrested. You have no repercussions. Would you rape her? Yes or no, please.
An interesting question.
It sounds like you're leaning on a yes. Am I correct?
Alrighty, I'm back.
I just asked him if he saw the hottest woman in the world walking down the street and he felt provocative, or he felt that she was provocative, would he rape her?
Is it Jessica Chastain?
Yes,
still?
it is Jessica Chastain.
Okay. I don't
Would you
disagree.
rape
I
her?
think she's very attractive.
Kyle, would you rape her?
No.
All right.
No.
What about you, Hardinch? Would you rape her? See how quickly he answered her.
To answer your question,
Yes or no? I feel like you've thought about this before. Would you rape her? Yes or no?
I would simply walk away from the vicinity where she's at, so I don't have
You
to
sure?
continue seeing her.
But you could just rape her.
Don't
It
you
wouldn't be
think
your
that-
fault.
No, but don't you think that you're then that's been my whole point all along, right? Don't you think you're smart and logical enough to simply not rape her? To just say no to this drug, if you want to call it.
Because the thing is, though that drive, that natural evolutionary drive, is certainly there. It's there in all of us. But
So you were able to rape her. You would have that drive in a certain scenario, but not this particular one. You would rape her.
We all have the drive, but the thing is, aren't you smart enough to overcome the drive? We also all have the drive to eat copious amounts of food, right? Because our bodies always think, hey, if I don't eat now, I'm gonna starve next week. So, hey, I should eat 5 packs of chips. But intelligently, logically thinking, we know, I'm not gonna starve next week. What the fuck? I don't live in Syria. So why should I eat so much and become obese? In the same way, why should I rape this woman?
I read this great article.
The reason I'm saying no to that and is because now I can only speak for myself personally. I don't judge men who do react out of that extreme hyperbolic sexual arousal and take a bitch by force. I don't judge them at all. I'm saying no to me personally doing that, because
All right, so your answer is no, 100%. You would not rape the hottest woman in the world.
Because there are some risks that are worth taking, and
I'm telling you, there's no risks though. That was the scenario. There's no repercussions to this. You will not get in trouble. Will you rape her?
but that's not true.
This is a scenario. It doesn't have to be logical. There's no repercussions. You're not going to get harmed. No one's watching. No one's going to find out. Would you rape her?
Okay, so you're talking a country where there's either no government at all, or
No, I'm saying a hypothetical situation where you're in the middle of a back alley, no one's around, no one will ever find out you raped her. Would you rape her?
see, I would still be thinking about that in the back of my mind though, because
But you know 100% sure no one's ever going to find out. Will you rape her?
You haven't said yes or no yet. Pardon for my interruption,
What
man.
the fuck is this? Whoa.
Yeah. I need to know. Is me, Omar. But yes, you have yet to answer this
Okay, you
gentleman's
get
question,
one
sir.
question and then I'm gonna mute you.
You said this situation.
you sound like you're agitated.
I'm just wondering because you've been skirting around the question for the past 2 minutes, sir.
Talking to Dr. Love. Dr. Love, you sound like you're agitated.
No, this is my show. I don't like
yes.
interlopers.
But yes,
Please
would you,
keep it short.
sir, an actual honest answer, 100% yes or no? You have yet to say yes or no. Would you or would you not? There are no repercussions, whatever.
Yeah, that's the same as my question. Would you rape her?
Would you? No one would ever find out.
Yes or no?
Just one simple yes or no.
Try not to think about it so hard. What's your animal instinct, as you say? You have sexual depravity. You haven't beat your meat for like 10 weeks. Would you rape her? Jessica Chastain, would you rape her?
See, that's not something I can answer yes to though, because I can't. It's just hard to conceptualize a no risk situation.
There's no risk at all. The situation is there's no risk. You are safe. Would you rape her?
Because see, I am risk averse.
But there is no risk.
Unless
it's a hypothetical.
Justifying that risk.
But there isn't a risk. There's no risk here. This is a hypothetical.
Both of you, I'm gonna mute the interloper here. So you both of you want a dreamland hypothetical where rape is legal, basically, right?
Yes.
In that
okay.
realm,
yeah, let's say that.
In that realm, they're asking you, Harden, would you do it?
Yes.
Oh, that would be an interesting society, because that would be a society that would force women to.
It's not about the society though. It's about would you rape her? Yes or no? Please answer yes or no. No other words but either the word yes or the word no. You've had some time to think about this. I hope you'd have an answer. Yes or no? Would you rape Jessica Chastain? It's legal. You won't get in trouble. Yes or no?
Yeah, but then
Yes.
there's still
yeah, that's all I need.
but then there's still the white knights to contend with.
No, there's no white knights in my hypothetical.
Really? So white knights have been eliminated from the gene pool.
Sure. But your answer is yes. You would rape. You said yes. Are you still thinking about it?
Wow, that would be an interesting world.
But pretend you're living in it. Would you rape her?
That that would be a very interesting world indeed.
Say you're
So,
living in
out
this. Go ahead, Kaya.
So, out of curiosity, do you think women can rape men? Because this comes back to the point that, vaginas were made to be fucked. So if a woman
I did
used
ask
her
him.
vagina to rape you, is that rape or is it okay? Since technically your dick was made to fuck anyway, and
I asked him this during the break. He said that
oh.
he answered that women, it would be the man's fault, just as it would be the woman's fault. So he's not sexist, at least. In some ways.
Is that true, Harden? Are you still here?
That's
Yeah,
what
I'm
he
here.
said during the break.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Oh yeah. Oh yes, I stand by that firmly.
Can I have one more question real quick?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Do you have any siblings that are female? Harden, do you have any female siblings?
Are you able to? Did you hear me?
No. I didn't hear you.
Oh no, I
Okay.
don't.
Well, let's talk about your mother. Do you like your mom? Good relationship? I can't hear you if you're talking.
Yeah.
Do
Are you
and
hearing
your
me?
mom have a good relationship?
No relationship now because she's locked up in a nursing home with dementia.
But do you love her? All right, let's ignore that question. If your mom got raped, is it her fault?
An elderly woman with dementia?
No. Pretend she's young and hot. Your own mother got raped.
But doesn't that still apply to your rule then? If right now she's an elderly woman with dementia, sure, but you were basically saying that women, even in their prime, even young women, are basically, we could call them men who have dementia, right? They're like men who have dementia. They're just slightly stupider and less responsible and less intelligent than men. If they deserve it, if they are responsible for their own rapes or oppression, wouldn't the same thing be true then of an elderly woman?
Something is wrong with a guy who is sexually triggered. See, a guy who's sexually triggered by an elderly woman, I put that in exactly the same category as men in prison who engage in forced anal penetration. That there's something wrong there.
It doesn't have to be an elderly woman. Let's say your mom is 30, right? She's in the prime of her looks, but she still suffers from dementia or Alzheimer's or whatever it may be. She has some sort of a psychological problem where it's genuinely not her fault. The level of intelligence and personality that she retains is not under her control. Would she still be at fault if she was the victim of sexual assault?
At that point, now you're talking about someone who needs to be under professional care.
Yeah, but you're basically saying that women are like people who need to be under specialized care. They're like children. They're not as smart as men. They are lesser. They're less intelligent. They're less capable of handling stress in day-to-day situations to the point that you said they shouldn't even be in the workforce. You know who else we don't think as a society should for is children, right? I mean, if that's you basically equated women to children in that they're not even able to hold a simple job or that they shouldn't be. So if that's true, then we are treating them like the mentally handicapped.
Yeah, and I believe that women, generally speaking, should be treated like the mentally handicapped because as well as some men too, men that are female like, because you do have men like your male SJWs, for example, that are extremely female-like in their thinking and how they approach life. I mean, it's actually scary just thinking about men being like that. That makes you wonder. One question.
Let me rephrase my question to get my point across better. Who is someone in your life that you truly love and care deeply about?
Other than my cat, hardly anybody. Hardly anybody. I've got my bros that are good guys.
Fuck me. So.
And my aunt, as far as anyone in my family, I would say my aunt.
Is your aunt good looking?
Elderly woman.
All right. Wouldn't she was younger? All right. Just say she's been raped before, a long time ago, when she was in her 20s. Was it her fault?
I'll answer this way. So one question that I often get posed to me when I'm debating this topic is well, what if you had a daughter? Yeah, that's one question I get a lot, and I answer the same every time. If I had a daughter, I would teach my daughter to be responsible with
But it's
her
not your
life.
daughter, it's your aunt, and you can't teach her. She has to teach you because she is older. Would it be her fault if she was raped? Yes or no?
Yeah, look. The things hypotheticals are easy to answer, right? Yeah, if I had a daughter, I'd raise her to be the perfect, cool, badass Tomb Raider woman she won't dress sluttily and she'll just beat up any rapists. That's easy to answer, but what if you don't have that option? What if it's somebody who already exists and you love them right now, somebody who's alive right this very moment?
Mm-hmm.
And you know that if she was raped, you couldn't just as easily roll your eyes and say, well, you were probably asking for it.
Okay, so Auntie in her younger years.
Yes, your aunt's a hot lad. She looks like Jessica Chastain. If she got raped, would it be her fault? Yes
if she's dressed slutty, yes. Yeah.
What if she's not dressed slutty? What if? All right, say now. All right, you answered that question. Now your aunt is ugly. Is it her fault? If your aunt was ugly, is it her fault? Yes or no?
No.
No. Oh, yeah. Sometimes your mic's not picking up, but thank you.
Okay.
All right.
Why is it not her fault if she's ugly?
As I said before, a guy who gets that by an ugly woman to the point of to the point of of wanting to take her by force to relieve his sexual frustration. That is strange. Strange because
I mean, but many people find different things attractive. I'm not into fat women, but there's plenty of men who, for whatever reason, I don't know if they were dropped on the head if they had some traumatic event. I don't know if Pennywise from the movie It Is haunting them, but they're into fat women, and they're super attracted to that.
And fat women still get raped.
Woman, yeah, I don't know why, but is that then their fault for what?
That was something to say, but keep going.
No. If it's a fat, ugly bitch, no, I wouldn't say it's her fault. I would say something's wrong with the guy. Like, why you getting aroused by this piece of walking blubber? What the fuck's wrong with you?
So it's not her fault. It's the guy's fault.
No.
All right.
Yes. Yes, something's wrong with him.
Threshold of hotness that women should not reach ever. Otherwise, it's their fault for being raped if they get raped. So just for security's sake, women should always just skirt that line of being hot but not too hot, a certain balance.
Well, if the power was in my hands, if it was all in my hands to change the course of human civilization, one of the things I would do, besides making animal products illegal, and eliminating anybody who refuses to be vegan out of the fucking gene pool. But besides that, well, one of the things I would do is I would enact a eugenics program to make all future generations of women between a 9 and a 10.
But
because what that would do is that would significantly reduce the conflict between the genders and male on male conflict as well.
How though? Because then you would still have ugly people. Because ugly is simply defined as the lower whatever percent of looks. If you kill off, say, all the women who are on a look scale between 1 and 8, and you're now left with nothing but 9s and 10s, then all you're gonna have is people are gonna say that the 9s are ugly and only the 10s are pretty. That's the problem with, like, people who say that should be a thing, right? Huh?
That?
Sorry,
he wants to know if you really believe that.
Yeah, no, because see, the problem with that is it's the same thing with people who believe in eugenics, right? Is say, hey, why don't we just kill all the stupid people? Well, the first assumption that they make is that somehow, for whatever reason, they're gonna make the cut. Like, if we suddenly decided to send stupid people to the death camps, who the fuck's saying that you're not gonna be on the train to Auschwitz? Yeah. Who the fuck gave you your genius certificate, right? You might be stupid. You don't fucking know. You might be the idiots. You don't know that. But at the same time, let's say the average IQ is 100 and we decide to kill everybody who's lower than 95. Okay, you do that. Now you have nothing but a society of people who are smarter than 95 IQ. Okay, that just means that now 95 is the bottom end. That just means that 95 is now the definition of stupid, and 100 is average, and maybe 110 is above average. You're always going to have stupid. Stupid doesn't have a specific number associated to it. Stupid simply means below average. The definition of average is you're always going to have people who are below average, be it intelligence.
On the lower end of the benchmark. On the lower end of the benchmark scale. Yeah, I got your point there. Yeah. So So then what you're suggesting is that if we enacted a eugenics program that would make all women between 9 and 10 still be male on male conflict for vagina access, and women would still be able to yield a disproportionate amount of power in society over men. Is that what your theory is?
I'm not entirely sure I'm able to follow you. I'm simply saying you would killing off the bottom end of whatever statistic we're talking about. It just raises the bottom end. That's it. It just, if you said let's kill all the old people and you killed everybody above the age of 50, right? And you're left with nothing but a society of 50-year-olds, then now 50 is old, right? You just lowered the bar. That's it.
There was a movie made about that, and there's a movie made about that in the 1970s called Logan's Run.
I haven't seen it.
That's what that movie depicted, a society where everybody above age 30 was executed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was a wild movie. Wild. Okay, where were we? I got off track there.
Well, the point was basically then even if you kill everybody over 30, well then now 30-year-olds are gonna be the new old people, right? 20 is gonna be prime age, 10 is gonna be young, but 30 is gonna be old. You're still gonna have old people. Back when, hundreds of years ago, when the average human lifespan was like, 26 years or something like that, 26 years was old. You were lucky to live 26 and not die of a tooth infection. And now we live up to like 100 years old. Now we consider 100 to be old. And the same thing would happen if you simply decide to kill all the stupid people. Kill everybody who's dumber than, I don't know, Stephen Hawking. Stephen Hawking. All of a sudden, all you got now is a society where people like Stephen Hawking are gonna be considered stupid. If you kill everybody who's hotter than, if you kill everybody who's uglier than Jessica Chastain, still gonna have ugly people. It's just raise the bar, but they're still gonna be considered ugly.
And you're suggesting that in the new eugenics world that women in the 9 range, women at what would be the lower end of the new benchmark standard would still largely get ignored by men, and then men would be competing for the 10s.
Yeah, basically. Well, they wouldn't be ignored. It's not like men are super picky. What I'm saying is that, yeah, there's women who are probably hotter than Jessica Chastain, and then in that world, Jessica Chastain would be considered ugly.
Interesting.
Right now, she's hot to us, but in that world, she probably wouldn't be. I mean, imagine a realm where Jessica Chastain she's pretty to us now, but she's the ugliest woman in existence currently. Right? So technically speaking, she is ugly then. That's a problem. I mean, ugly people, stupid people, these are all relative terms. They're not absolutes. You can't absolutely get... It's the lowest number problem, right? If you have numbers between 1 and 10 and you say, hey, let's get rid of the lowest number. What's the lowest number? 1. Okay, let's get rid of it. Now we only have numbers 2 through 10. But that didn't solve anything. You still have the lowest number. Notice 2 is the lowest number.
So what you're arguing then is that is an unachievable goal.
Yeah, basically.
Speaking. You could be right. You could be right. I'm not. I can't right now say I agree or disagree with you. You could be right. It's definitely something to think about.
I have a question for you that's been lingering for a while now. What's your views on consensuality? Like, say a woman's drunk and she says, yes, we can have sex. Is that rape? Hardick. Hardin.
Oh.
Your mic keeps cutting out.
I don't know why.
Can you say what you said again?
Your question was, hell no.
Hell no?
No.
So it is or isn't the woman's fault?
I don't see being inebriated as grounds for the legal system to get involved.
So if a woman is drunk and she says yes to have sex, that man's allowed to have sex with her. Your mic's cutting out again. Yes.
Yes, he
All
is.
right. That was from a guy who had his little sister raped.
Who? Wait, you? Is that you, Brady?
No. It was from a guy in the messaged me.
Okay.
Because if it was the flip side, if you took the flip side of that hypothetical scenario and say the guy is inebriated and the girl is all over him, she wants him to penetrate her in the worst way, would that same standard apply to him? Legally
Sure.
speaking, that is.
Yeah.
Legally speaking, would that same standard apply to him? No, it wouldn't.
Yeah. Yes, it would. If a man was drunk and he said, yes, you may have sex with me, and then later he claimed it was rape, I believe he would get the same courtroom that the woman would.
Right.
You don't believe that?
No, I don't. Because we live in a man-hating society.
Well, a courtroom is supposed to be just and unbiased. So if you found that courtroom to be unbiased, you could say that and get a different courtroom. You can keep getting a new courtroom, a new judge until you think it's not biased. Sooner or later, people are going to stop believing that's not biased and that you fucked up.
Yeah, but see, when it comes to sexual activity, I want the government out of it.
Even if they can save lives.
And men and women alike need to take responsibility for their own stupid fucking lives, because it goes back to the amount of societal resources that we are pumping into legal systems.
Well, we can't always control what happens to us.
Systems take too much resources to operate. That's why I want to shrink. I want to, there's always going to be some demand for police and courts and prisons, but I want to shrink those things down to
you wanting to pay for more things does not minimize the problem of rape. There's still a problem, and the government can help with it.
I want to shrink. I understand
that. You want the government to not do that so you can save more money, but the problem's still there.
Damn straight. Yes.
But women are still dying and getting sexually assaulted. If there's no one to help them, they're just going to die and get sexually assaulted. Do you have a rebuttal to that?
I don't see how a woman getting fucked is gonna cause her to die. I mean, that's
Well, they don't always keep them alive after fucking them. You said that when you were thinking about raping someone that you were scared of repercussions. Well, tons of people are scared too. That's why they kill them afterwards. So, your rebuttal.
There are some men that kill their targets, but not the majority. Not the majority of men aren't doing that. And
Do you have any statistic to prove that?
what we can find on the search engine. Let's see here.
There's but no matter how big the number is, the problem's still there. Women are still dying. They don't need to die to suffer, by the way. A rape can be a lifelong trauma. That's why people who get raped when they're a little kid are dealing with it when they're 60. It doesn't matter when it's happened.
See, there's a whole lot of fucking articles on the search engine that that could come up on
Let's just
this.
ignore the articles. I want your opinion. I want to hear your rebuttal.
Refresh my memory. What was the question again?
The question is, you said that you want to shrink money, or you don't want the government to step in sexual assault. That's not the question. This is what we're talking about.
Yes.
You said you don't want the government to step in with sexual assault, and I explained to you that it is definitely necessary that they do that. You said just because they get raped, it's done with. I said, no, this is a lifelong thing and can cause trauma forever. It can haunt them for the rest of their lives, and it may cause them to die of suicide. Do you understand that?
Well, my question would be if a woman is contemplating suicide over something that small, why?
You think rape is a small thing?
Justify suicide.
You think rape is a small thing?
What would justify suicide?
I mean, that's not up to me. That's up to someone who. That's up to every single person who's living. What would justify your suicide? It's different for everyone. Sometimes not being able to live with themselves as they were raped would justify their suicide.
People do commit suicide for a variety of reasons, but how would something like that qualify as a reason for suicide?
Because they were raped. rape is not a small thing, it's a big thing. Rape is a gigantic thing. It affects you for the rest of your life.
I mean, if not that, what else would you commit suicide for? I mean, there's a myriad of reasons, of course, but most people, I think, are confused by your answer because, for most of us, rape is a pretty serious and grave thing that could possibly happen to a person. If you're in debt, it's, depending on how much money it is, that's salvageable. If you get a bad grade, that's not a big deal. If somebody breaks up with you, that's not such a big deal.
Yeah, what?
If your life dies, that's not such a big deal. But if you're violated to that point of, sexually, emotionally, most people would consider that a very serious thing.
What I've always found highly interesting about that is how see it's interesting. Anything that happens to women is considered the worst thing in the world, and
rape is one of the worst things in the world.
well, and I think the reason mainstream society looks at so-called rape in that manner is because it's something that women disproportionately complain about. Men don't complain about that, but it is
Women
interesting.
Men don't complain about rape.
But
They do, by the way.
But it is. I find it quite interesting, though, how rape is very often seen as worse than taking someone's life, worse than killing someone. So for example,
Sometimes it's one and the same.
for example, you have the sex offender registry. How come there's not the equivalent of that for homicide?
There is.
There's no homicide offender registry.
There's definitely a registration for killing someone.
I mean, yeah,
you could.
Homicide registry is usually just called prison. They don't usually let you out if you kill numerous people.
Any serious crime you commit is well documented.
If you could have someone who did prison time for homicide living right next door to you, and you would never know it unless your neighbor were to admit it to you, because there is no registry for that. There's no registry for that. If
there definitely is.
There.
And in some states, I'm pretty sure it is a law. They have to.
I don't think they call it a homicide registry, but I think you can pretty much Google everybody's criminal record at this point in this day and age. I'm not sure.
Oh.
I get your point. I understand that sex crimes are usually more looked down on than, say,
and homicide.
Because...
More so than homicide. Yes, more so than fucking homicide.
Well, why does
I
that
get that,
matter?
but that's because usually people just simply consider rape to be even worse than death, because a lot of people would rather just die than be raped over and over. A lot of people simply aren't that patient and or strong, whatever you want to call it. I don't know if you've heard of Joseph Fritzl, the man in Austria who he imprisoned his own daughter in his basement for 24 years and raped her so many times that she had children, and then he raped the children. Maybe death would have been better for her, right? Maybe her fate, maybe living for 24 years in that basement being raped over and over by her own father, maybe that was worse than rape. To me, at least, I honestly, on her, I would have wished death more. It just sounds like a horrible fate for a person to live something like that. That's why it's so bad for some people.
And that's why people compare that rape is worse than murder. Because murder is a bad thing, but it's quick. Well, it's not always quick, but it does end. Rape doesn't always end for people. Sometimes it goes on forever. Never stops affecting you. You think about it every single day you live.
It's basically like torture, right? Like, would you rather be waterboarded for 24 years, or would you rather be shot in the head right this second? Right? A lot of people will probably choose the bullet right now.
Yeah.
That's a fact.
So what do you think about that?
Well, now I like the example that you use inebriated, being able to retroactively withdraw consent. Because you posed the question from my understanding, effectively, if a woman is inebriated and at the time and she consents to sex, should she be able to retroactively withdraw that consent?
Yeah.
and see, that's an example right there. I take a cold scientific approach to everything. I am definitely I am a strong believer in applying the scientific method to every problem, and that's part of the problem with governments. Is governments do not apply the scientific method to virtually anything.
What do you mean by that?
Well, because when you look at the laws that governments enact, they're not grounded in science.
They're grounded to protect people.
Grounded in science. They're grounded in politics. They're grounded in emotion. They're grounded in
to me, they're mostly grounded in, at least in Western civilization, they're mostly grounded in, does this person consent to this thing happening to them or not? That seems to be the most crucial factor in our laws today. Do I want to get robbed? No. Robbery is illegal. Do I want to get killed? No. Killing is illegal, right? So
of course,
if you don't have to be a science major to know that it's not really retroactive retraction of, say, somebody's just mugged in a back alley, or if a woman is held in her father's basement for 24 years. It's not like she just, after 24 years, decided, hey, I didn't like this after all. I kind of regret this. I'm gonna press charges against him for rape. No, she didn't consent from the get-go, which is what our laws are based on. Sure, we have tons of laws across all cultures that don't make a lot of sense, right? To me, like, personally, I don't like piracy laws, hate speech laws, that sort of stuff that irks me, right? But essentially, they're still all based on, hey, this is the golden rule that's present in all cultures, right? Do unto others as you would be done by. Don't treat others the same way you want to be treated, right? I don't want to be raped. I don't want somebody that I'm not into to rape me. So I think we should pass laws that says that I shouldn't be able to be raped by people that I don't find attractive, and that say I shouldn't be able to rape people who can't rape me that, don't find me attractive in return. I think consent just plays a huge role in this. But, okay, I have a question for you in this way then. If women are largely responsible for the way they dress and behave, and it's, they simply bring out something almost primal in men, how do you then feel about, say, pedophilia, right? And I'm not calling you pedophile or anything, don't get, not trying to offend you, but a lot of them make that argument that, some percentage of men are said to be attracted to children, right? So is it the kids' fault then if they're dressing too provocatively in their I don't know, kids skirts or whatever the fuck kids wear on onesies. I think some guy put it at like 5% of all men are into children.
That seems unrealistically high, but a pedophile is someone who needs mental health treatment. That is someone who should be kept in a mental institution at least until he can get normal, so that he doesn't pose a threat to children. Because now I'm not for retribution. Pedophilia is a mental health issue, and should be handled as
Wait.
such.
What do you mean retribution?
Meaning I'm not for subjecting pedophiles to violence. You know, the violence that is often brought upon them in prisons. They should not be put in prison. They should be in mental institutions because they're suffering from a mental health.
Should a rapist?
So you do think you do agree that it's not the kid's fault, then it's the man who suffers from this, if you want to call it an affliction, from this, that they're attracted to children.
Oh yes, yeah, because for someone to be sexually attracted to a 6-year-old, that's fucking bizarre.
Yeah, but see,
So
a
I'm
lot
saying
of
that-
them would make the same arguments that a lot of rapists make that simply rape women of age. They simply say, I couldn't hold myself back. I was too tempted. She was dressed too provocatively. How could I not do it? Right? They're the identical excuses that both pedophiles use and regular rapists use.
Yeah. Well, see, again, you're trying to compare a child to an adult woman.
No.
Are
I'm
two
comparing the
completely
man who
different
rapes
things.
a child to a man who rapes an adult woman. I'm saying they both use the same excuse. They're both saying that they just simply couldn't control themselves. And I'm saying if you're truly a man and if you're truly smarter, you're supposed to be smarter, isn't it up to you to be able to control yourself? No matter what you're into.
Two things are not equivalent though, because when it because when it comes to a guy, a guy who hasn't been laid for years, and who's being dick-teased by a highly attractive woman, there's evolution involved there. There's biology, there's genetics, there's all those things that go into millions of years of evolution. When you're talking about pedophilia, now you're talking about an aberration.
No, you're not.
Pedophile.
If you want to talk about pedophilia, it's evolutionarily sanctioned. A lot of women get their periods when they're like 11 or 12 years old. Biology, nature, if you want to call it, is telling you that you're ready to fuck when women begin to bleed and when men begin to produce sperm. They're just little children, basically, at that point. It's us as a society, as men, who decide, no, that's too young. We may be physically ready to fuck, but we're not emotionally ready to fuck. It's just simply not right. That's completely on our end to make that decision. It's completely biological. I mean, what age women had kids, or females had kids when we were like cavemen, but I'm sure it wasn't 35.
Well, sure, but you're talking about such an aberration like pedophilia. That is an extreme aberration. That's because that is counter to evolution. that runs counter to evolution. So, and that's why I argue that someone with that issue needs mental health treatment.
Mm. Kaya, do you
And
need another break?
No, I'm fine actually.
Oh, okay.
I'm not drinking that much. I'm quite alright right now. So please go ahead. You usually ask that when you have a question, so please feel free.
I've got tons of questions on my backlog. Well, the mods here in the Discord are really angry that I've not been asking this. What is your educational background?
Some college courses, but I never went far enough for a degree.
All right. Another question is, can rape victims defend themselves? Are you okay with that? If someone is being raped, are they allowed to defend themselves? Yes or no?
Well, if someone is that driven to fuck, they're not going to give you the opportunity to. They're not even going to give you the opportunity to pull out your weapon.
Well, that's not always true, and you don't need a weapon to defend yourself.
Are you? I'm not sure what you're asking, Brady. So
I'm
I think
asking
something like if a woman was, let's say, she's getting raped and she somehow found a way to defend herself and she killed the rapist, do you think she should be held accountable for
No,
the
I'm
killing, or
asking-
should it be counted as self-defense? Is that close? No.
I'm asking if she can defend herself, should she, or should she sit there and take it? Yes or no?
Well,
Should
that's
she
what I
def-
said, yeah.
Yeah. Should she defend herself or take it like a champ? Yes or no?
That is a difficult question to answer because
Let's see how.
I'm just this subject matter scientifically. I'm really not convinced. I'm really not
All right. Well,
not convinced
I don't like it when you're not convinced. So let's put it into a hypothetical. A woman is going to defend herself, or has the option to defend herself. Should she? Yes or no?
Well, that's not something either the law or me or anybody else can control. Yeah, I mean, if she's going to,
I'm not
she's
asking
going
you to
to.
control it. I'm asking your opinion. Should she? Yes or no? Do you think she should defend herself? Yes or no? Or should she take it like a champ? Yes or no?
I think she should defend herself from forced anal penetration if that's happening. Yeah.
So, if it's anal, she should. If it's anal, she should defend herself, but not vaginal. Is that what I'm hearing?
I mean, so let's say the police arrive at the scene and they make some sort of forensic analysis and they find out the guy's dead, the rapist is dead, and they whatever it's called, they look over at the woman and they say, hey, you only were vaginally raped, why did you defend yourself? Should she face consequences? Do you think a woman should face a consequence for defending herself against a rapist? Basically, I think our question is, I believe.
Yeah. Pardon, are you there?
The yeah, the reason I have a difficult time addressing that sort of question is because due to the fact that women consistently prove themselves incapable of taking responsibility for their own lives. And due to female nature being what it is, this is something that PUAs talk about all the time, which PUAs are accurate on. Some things PUAs are not accurate on, but one thing they are accurate on though is that women are turned on by dominance. Women are sexually attracted to dominance, and
Yeah.
women aren't that stupid. They understand that one way to trigger a man into dominance is by getting him into a hyperbolic state of
All right, let's say
sexual arousal.
A woman has
I
no
mean-
interest in this man, does not dress provocatively. She has the option to defend herself. Should she? Yes or no?
Okay, that's a better question.
Thank you.
If,
Yes or no?
if she is not dressed sexually provocative, if
Yes.
she's dressed conservative, then yeah, I would have an easier I would then have an easier time understanding her reacting with violence to a man's sexual advance. Yes.
I don't. Should she though? Yes or no? Yes or no?
No answer to
You
that.
answered that.
I would
when you-
understand. I would understand if she did. Yeah, if she is not dressed like a fucking slut. Yeah, if she's dressed conservative, if she is dressed conservative
Alright,
and she reacts with violence against a man's sexual advance, then yeah, I would understand it in that situation. I would understand it.
All right, thank you.
So I actually have a question then. Do you think women have the same evolutionary and biological need for sexual release that men do? Because your argument so far has been that men have a need for something sexual, right? So if a man rapes you, you baited him basically, he has to do it. Do you think women have anything like that where they have to sexually release themselves, where they would have to rape a man or God knows, even a small boy, where that just builds up and they
that's-
cannot say no?
That's an interesting question there. And it's a question I don't exactly know how to answer because what triggers sexual arousal in women is different than what triggers it in men. So women do
But
not.
for both of us, it's not consent. I know you said that for women it's dominance, right? Sure, yeah. Women, of course, they like being dominated. It's the most common fetish is rape fantasies for both genders. Women love being dominated, men love dominating, but there's still this implied line, this, very strongly drawn line of consent. Do I actually have the permission of her to dominate her? That's the reason why safe words exist. It doesn't matter if she's crying for mercy and saying no, as long as she's not using the safe word, I'm okay. But if she does use the safe word, I have to stop, right? And anybody who's not a rapist would stop with the safe word. The thing just is, for men and both women, I don't.
Well, so here's the thing. Women do not get women do not get horny as often as often as men do. They don't have get the urge for sex as often as men do. However, what's interesting about female sexuality is when they do get sexually aroused, and this is why if you read articles by sexology by sexology experts, one of the things that they advise men to do is to spend a lot of time giving his woman foreplay and try to delay intercourse as long as possible, and that's due to the fact that men cannot hold out as long as women can on average. On average, women can go an amazing amount of time during intercourse, an amazing amount of time. That's why it's not as easy to please them as it is for them to please us, sexually. That is because the amount of time that they can go during intercourse is just fucking amazing. They can go upwards of an hour.
I understand that. I understand that it can be more difficult to please them, but does that mean that they have any less of a need, any less of a desire? Just because they have a more difficult time having an orgasm doesn't mean they want it less. Right?
It takes them a lot longer on average to orgasm than it does a guy. Way longer.
But then, if anything, they should be even more desperate than men, right? They have an even more difficult time than men getting an orgasm and getting off. So shouldn't they be even more desperate than men? Shouldn't they be even more rapier than men? Shouldn't they be the ones going around looking for a vulnerable, weak, young, disabled men to rape?
Sure.
If they're just that difficult to please, if they're just having that difficult of a time getting their fix.
The reason you don't see women resorting to physical force against men as often as you do vice versa is because a woman who is reasonably attractive, if she's reasonably attractive, if she's at least a seven or above, she can get sex just entirely too easily, entirely too easily. Whereas that deck is stacked against men. On with the exception of a guy who's a Chad or a Tyrone, or a guy who's rich, or a guy who's rich. And disagree with PUAs on is PUAs love to argue that just live the life of a bad boy and you'll get laid all you want. Oh, that's not true. Because
that's something we can agree on. I don't think that pickup artists or men going their own way or the red pill, whatever you want to call them, I think they are all incels in denial. That's completely
well, because the problem with that advice is I've known plenty of bad boy types who aren't enjoying who are not enjoying a spectacular sex life. So no, there's now if it's a bad boy who's rich, or if it's a bad boy who's extraordinarily handsome, that's different.
Can I throw in a popular question here? Everyone wants to know your opinion on bestiality. What do you think about bestiality?
As a vegan activist, that is something I am staunchly opposed to.
That makes sense to me.
Leave animals. Leave
As a
animals.
regular man. Okay, I understand you have the well-being of
The
animals.
fuck alone.
Which I do too. I love animals as well, but does that not clash with the rest of your views when you say that men, if they have a certain desire, a certain biological impulse, it needs to be met? Isn't it the same thing like if a cow or your dog is just walking around in your home? Is that really any different than, say, some scantily clad hoochie slut, Jessica Chastain, walking around in your house with a short skirt? Isn't she just asking for it? For you to have a release?
The two situations are not equivalent to each other because
they're pretty equivalent. Because you have a thing about biology, and you can't really choose who you're attracted to. What if their biology is that they're attracted to animals? Is it the animal's fault that it was raped?
And then that is someone who needs mental health treatment. I put someone like that in the same category as someone who's attracted to rectums or someone who's attracted to a 7-year-old. That's someone who needs mental health treatment.
But someone who just rapes a regular old woman does not need mental health? Is not a mental health patient?
No.
No. All right.
No. No. See these other scenarios you're bringing up. Now you're talking about the realm of the bizarre. You know, someone who's attracted to rectums, someone
That's
who's
not bizarre. People are attracted to animals.
Someone who's attracted to non-humans, someone who gets aroused by a 5-year-old. What the fuck?
Yes, these are people that live in our society.
I mean, those people
Yeah, now you're
argue that at the end of the day they still got to come. You know, at the end of the day they got to stick their dick into something and have an orgasm. They had a release. Isn't that the whole point behind rape? Is this woman might not want me, she might not find me attractive. It doesn't matter. You might be so ugly, this woman might consider you a member of a different species, but you don't care. You're still gonna rape her. You're still gonna put your dick in her. It doesn't matter. You know, you got your release, so it's fine. It's righteous, right?
It's your biology, as you say, in your own words.
Yeah, but again, you're trying to compare different situations that are just not equivalent to each other, because some of these scenarios you're describing fall under the category of bizarre. Downright bizarre.
Rape is a pretty bizarre thing, wouldn't you say? These things still happen, though. It's not that crazy that people like children, people rape, and people like animals. It's problems that we have in everyday society. It's not that bizarre as you may think. These things do happen. Say a man cat raped your lady cat. Is it the lady cat's fault?
I would not be interested in punishing the male cat for that. I mean, because it's
Neither would I. I agree, but they're animals. I think that's the fundamental disconnect that people have. They're animals, and we're supposed to be better than animals.
Yeah.
Right? I'm not angry at I have 2 cats myself. One is male, one is female. I don't get angry at the male one when he's like biting the female one because he's stronger and he can just bully her. I don't get mad at him for that. I try to curb that and discourage it, but I
But
don't
people have the option of free thinking.
get.
Animals don't have that.
We are supposed to be above that and be able to rationally think and logically
Yeah.
come to the conclusion that you're not supposed to just
Oh,
hang
oh.
around the weaker ones.
I actually advise men against taking bitches by force because I don't believe in taking risks that are not worth risking. You know, it's got to be something that has a greater payoff than just getting your fucking dick wet. But I don't criticize men who do, but I do advise men against it. I advise men against it because you know, because the risk of encountering white knights, the risk of going to prison,
I think
the
the actual effect on the person is way more important than the risk of the abuser. You're focused on the rapist. I think you should be more focused on the victims.
yeah, but see, I don't care about women because women are a privileged class. They are a privileged class. So I don't care about them.
Kai, do you need a break?
Well, not a break, but we'll have to wind it down soon. I do. It's I don't know where you live, Hardin, or you, Brandon Brady, but it's
Brady.
6:40 a.m. for me, and I do have a doctor's appointment at 7:15, so I'll have to wrap it out in a few minutes. So if you two guys have a couple of last thoughts to chime in, please feel free.
Please go ahead, Hardin. Just
Okay, well, point. Because see, the thing is, governments have gotten so fucking big that they're really getting to the point where they are becoming unsustainable. Governments are becoming a malignant cancer. You know, because we're just dedicating too much resources to police forces, to court systems, to prisons, to militaries, and what have you. So at some point, society, collectively speaking, that is those of us that are adults. Children is a different matter, but those of us that are adults need to start taking responsibility for our own lives, because we cannot continue long term into the future wasting resources on these police forces and court systems and prisons. And to you folks who are outraged over over police in America killing private citizens and getting away with it, and you are justified in being outraged over that, but you have to ask ourselves, what is it that has led to society being at the point where we are now, of having a police state and having a society where police have so much status that they are able to
can you kind of wrap up this point, please?
Okay, so that's the general point I'm hoping. It's the general point I'm hoping to get across. You need to understand biology. We should be teaching children about evolution and biology from early ages. so that so that when they become adults, they go about their life with acting with sense.
All right. I just wanted to say that for everyone here, thank you for listening. But everyone basically wanted us to go in on you and attack you. But I think tonight was just to talk to you and get to know what you actually think instead of actually just getting in a shouting match and not getting anywhere. We wanted to know what you actually thought, what you're. So, and you answered a ton of questions for us, and we thank you for that.
Yeah, I think this
Sure,
was
sure, you're
better than
welcome.
just attacking people and screeching at them. I think this was
Mhm.
pretty good. Look, I don't know why. What was her name? The girl. Something.
Margaret,
Mariah.
Marmalade.
Maria.
Mariah.
Maria.
Yeah. I don't know why she just left out of nowhere, but look, she left. You two guys, you stood here, you remained, but I think we had a respectful conversation. Nobody was yelling or screeching or leaving or anything. I think that was fun. So I'd love to do this again, be it on this Discord server or Face and LMS's podcast or whatever he's playing right now. So I think this was fun. Unfortunately, I do have to leave now, but I'm glad we're parting on hopefully civilized foot here. I hope you two guys had fun as well.
Yeah,
Oh,
this is my first time on the Dr.Love podcast, and I did enjoy it.
Oh, definitely.
That's
It
what it's
was
here for.
definitely it was good. It was good engaging with you, and we should do it again sometime.
Okie dokie. Alright, well.
Did you guys hear me?
Thank you for everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. So, and thank you for everybody who's been listening. And we're gonna be shutting off Dr. Love's clinic for today.
Cheers, guys.
Have a good night.
Night.